Followed by the lawyer's quick take, that's Chapter 73. It's a quicker process. Chapter 74 is the other one. The difference between the two is that when you use quick take, you're stuck with what the judge rules is the proper amount to pay. You basically, what's different about the two is in a quick take, you do your survey, you do your appraisal, you present that to the owner. They have so many days, 30 days, to say, yes, I'll take the money, or no, I won't. Then you file it and you have to tender the money. I'm making this, well, I better not use a number, right? That could be dangerous.
An amount of money.
X dollars, the appraisal says X dollars. When you file, you hand over that X dollars, it goes in the registry of the court. When that case is over, they get it, or if there's an additional amount, because the judge says it should have been X plus Y dollars, then we pay the Y dollars. So we're committed. In other words, you're locked in. That's the thing about quick take. You're locked in. Chapter 74, you don't tender money, you go through, you figure out what you want to do. This is like, you've committed. You get the property. You file, you get the property. You get an order of taken right away. But you're liable. It's like, okay, you get the property. You got to be careful what you wish for. You get the property, but you don't know how much I'm going to rule the amount of money is. You're just on the hook for it. But if we take either the full dune remnant or just the easement right, we're not talking about a lot of money. On the tax roll, they're assessed for $2,500. That doesn't mean that's their value on the open market, but it tells you the order of magnitude. We're not talking about something that's $20K or $30K or $50K. No way. And on the easement, the value is nominal. I mean, we're not destroying the property. We're preserving the property. Not like a road right-of-way project. So it's, in our view, it's going to be very nominal value.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Here, I have two questions.
Sure.
Al, these individuals that own this 2,400 and 2,500 block, the homes, or are they homes there, or is it actual just property?
Well,
Is it
there are
undeveloped land?
homes, there are built homes in the South 2,400 and South 2,500 block.
Built homes, okay.
And there are remnants all the way through. We have gotten every single owner in the two blocks to sign their easements.
Correct.
Except for the one owner who has two remnants.
Okay, and these remnants are undeveloped land, or they actually have homes on the?
No, not the remnants, but across the street from one of them is the home, and that's where the owner lives.
Okay,
The owner of these remnants lives in the property immediately across from one of the remnants, and the other, the land is vacant.
it's
not
vacant.
developed.
Okay, yeah, that was my question. And is this owner been radio silent with you? Have they just flat out said no? Have they communicated at all? I guess that's my question.
Yes, we finally were able to have communications in the early part of May. And in fact, the owner had identified some issues, which I said I would follow up on. And then the owner, I still remember the date. It's, one of those things you just don't forget. May 10th, the owner told me that she would execute the easements. We furnished them, tried to get a closing arranged, and we were doing it, the contactless because of the COVID. But she declined, and we have communicated with her a number of times, and it's been radio silent since, say, mid to second, third week of May. It's been radio silent.
Okay, and my second
Till
question
now.
is,
And even to now.
until now, okay. And my second question is, the problem, you said there are homes on South 27th that are problematic?
Yes,
How
well,
many?
they haven't signed easements.
They have not signed. How many homes are there? Or how many homes, but how
Okay,
many
when you say
parcels? I'm sorry, how many parcels? 4?
Yeah, there's 4.
4, okay.
4 left. We had a much higher number. We brought it down.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have anything?
I just have a comment.
Okay.
Ms. Sandee, you've been very diligently working on this for a long time and very dedicated to it, and I think this is an example of when the county and the cities and federal and state governments work together, we can get a lot done. We've come a long way in the last 2 months from what we initially had of holdouts. And as I stated yesterday during the commission meeting, as much as I just dislike eminent domain, I think you get to a point where you have to look at the welfare of the individuals. And we're talking about all of Flagler Beach, and it could be a life-death type situation, as we all know. So I think we have to do what we have to do in order to protect the property and lives that we have here, because we never know when that big one's going to come. So I just want to thank you and, extend it to the commissioners again for their efforts in helping us get through this.
Absolutely, and thank you, and thank all the citizens and organizations that have helped us get to this point. There was not one person, right? Lots and lots of people helped us get to this point.
Well, we're all grateful for everyone's efforts.
Absolutely. So,
Well, thank you.
okay, thank you very much.
All right, the next item on the agenda is comments from, that are not on the agenda. Citizens can come up and talk about any item, anything they wish to talk about that's not on the agenda. When you come up, would you please give your name and your address, and you get 3 minutes.
It's air freshener. It's just air
You are a
freshener.
lawyer, right?
I'm Pastor Larry Hobbs. I'm the pastor of Flagler County Baptist Church here in this county. I own property also in Flagler Beach, 2826 John Anderson Highway. And we put in an application to have to be able to utilize the park right here. And what we wanted to do is on September the 26th, they're calling this the National Day of Prayer and Repentance. It's a worldwide event. Actually, they turned it global now. And so on that day of September 26th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., we would like to have the National Day of Prayer and Repentance Revival in the park, is what we were trying to have. And so Penny has been such a blessing, such a sweet lady, and I gave her all the information, and I know who she is, but was it you? You sprayed this down for me and everything. You're a sweetheart. And she got me, kudos to her, give her a raise. But anyway, she got me everything I needed. We filled out all of our paperwork that we needed, and we obtained insurance that we needed, and we turned that in. And I spoke with Sheriff Staley as a personal friend, and I asked him if he would be willing to come to the event. And at some point, because we're going to have we're hosting a little Southern Gospel concert, and then I wanted Sheriff Staley to come and talk for a moment about the importance of faith in the line of duty. With all that's going on around us, we see it's pretty important. There's a lot of chaos in this world, and we need some peace, And so I wanted him to come talk to us about the importance of faith in the line of duty, and also lead us in the Pledge of the Allegiance, and that would be kind of in the middle of the whole event. And then we were going to have some preaching, things like that in the park. So a concert, preaching, and pledge and testimony from the sheriff. So we filled out our paperwork, obtained insurance. We confirmed with the sheriff. He said, definitely come and preacher, and he's excited for it. We also obtained off-site parking, so we wouldn't be a bothersome to anybody. And I spoke with Flagler, First Baptist Church of Flagler Beach, and they were kind enough to say, absolutely, you can use our parking lot. And so after having done everything that we did, we turned it all in. And and I understand, the sheriff's department, the police department here, in the middle of a pandemic, it's kind of hard to issue some kind of a permit. But we have our First Amendment rights. We could go there, but I don't like to do things like a dog and pony show. I want to be first class. I don't want to be on megaphones looking like, I don't know what I'm doing. I like things to be nice. And so we wanted to have a little platform and have a PA system and let, the concert be nice and all of that. So anyways, with all that being said, they felt as though during a time like this, it can't really issue a permit like that. And I said, well, maybe it wouldn't hurt to go before the commission board and see if we could have it anyways, because the truth of the matter is what we're wanting to do in the park is no different than what will be being done directly across the street at the beach, which is socially distanced people gathering at the beach. Only difference is we'll probably have on more clothes, And is that for me? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was on a time. So anyways, and it would be honestly safer than what this room is. We're outdoors. So anyways, that's what we were hoping we could see it get accomplished, is if we could get that permit approved so we could do it that way.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Penny. Are we
And Matt, are we issuing any special event permits at this time?
No, we have not. And Chief Pace and I are of the same mindset that we are not moving forward with any events in the parks to include First Friday until further notice. So I declined it, and so did Chief Pace.
Oh, okay. So yeah, unfortunately, we're not doing special events right now in the city parks, so
Okay.
that's
All right, well, we
nothing.
tried.
I'm sure it's a great event. It sounds lovely. and-
It is, it would
But
be, but
unfortunately,
I understand. It is what it is. You know, it's the day in which we live, so. All right, guys, thanks for your time. I appreciate
Well,
it.
we look forward to you making the same attempt next year. Don't let it discourage you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. All right, take care.
Question for Chief. Chief, based on the whole structure of the governor's order and everything, the special events of that nature, they don't start until the next phase, is that correct?
I don't know what the governor's next phase is going to be, whether it's, opening bars, but those other type of events, I mean, we're not doing First Friday for one reason. Congregating folks, even though it's outdoors in a tight-knit area like that, is way too hard to control. And yes, we have had events where people are walking across a bridge, and like the pastor said, there are First Amendment rights that we can't prohibit. There's a group that's walking tomorrow morning across the bridge. And it's firefighters and first responders that just want to do something for 9/11. I can't preclude them from walking across the bridge, and they understand that, and I talked to the firefighter that did it, so I don't know where this is going as far as what the governor's going to do, but if you just take a minute to reflect on 3 years ago today, Hurricane Irma was in this city. And we made it through that time with courage, unity, and compassion. We're all going through something totally different 3 years later. I think we just need to just take a deep breath, keep that Flagler strong attitude. And Pastor, as soon as we can have that type of event where it's opened up, I'll be standing up there with Sheriff Staley praying with you. So until we can do it in the interest of public safety, we're just not having events in the city. To include, we discussed it last week about, not having the holiday at the beach parade. I know that's not going to be popular for kids, but, not seeing Santa Claus parachuting is something that I really enjoy, but that's obviously not going to happen this year, so.
Madam Chair?
Can I ask a question, too, or regarding that?
If you come back up.
Sure. Quick question. When I came to, and I had an evangelist here in town, and we went to dinner right up here at Flagler Fish Company one night. And when we did, we noticed there was a parade like what you're talking about, come down the bridge, and the rainbow flags, I guess is LGBTQ, something I wasn't really paying too much attention. But what I noticed was that there was a fire truck that kind of led the whole thing with a flag, a rainbow flag on the back and all that. And I was just curious, how was the fire truck involved in something like that in the midst? This just happened a few weeks ago. But a church wants to have a revival.
That fire truck never led anything. It was parked right over here on Central Avenue, and it did have a flag up there, but that was a walk across the bridge.
It did have a flag on it, you said?
It did, but
Right,
it
it
didn't lead, there was no fireman leading. That truck never led a parade.
Okay.
The-
Well,
the
I guess
truck
that was
was
the
parked right
assumption
here.
that I had because I saw it with the flag on the back, so I
Right,
assumed
but
that it led. I
that
missed
fire
the
truck was parked
beginning.
there, it was an on-duty fire truck,
Uh-huh.
and that was to celebrate the anniversary of the Pulse shooting. So-
Okay.
And then that was a First Amendment right. They wanted to walk across the bridge, and that's exactly what they did.
So they had the First Amendment right to walk across the bridge, but then we allowed the fire truck to take part in something that we said,
I didn't allow it. I'm the police chief, so.
right. Well, I'm not saying you in
I can't speak for the
particular.
fire chief.
I'm just making sure that it's not,
Right. Sir.
they can do it, but churches can't.
Pastor, we've gone way past your 3
Right.
minutes, and,
It was just a follow-up question.
okay.
All right.
My understanding is that and a number of other safety equipment was in different areas for standby, is my understanding of it.
That they would have been, they would have been on duty anyway.
Correct, just like there's been other events that have had to have, motorcade, traffic control, and stuff like that for the, the safety and well-being of the traffic, folks out in traffic and the pedestrians. There's been numerous times where there's been a lot of equipment out there on the road for that purpose is safety.
Which is separate from the safety of people due to the COVID.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and does anybody else have anything to say?
I did, Madam Chair. I totally support praying in the in the entire initiative that you have, but what I'm looking at also is the precedent that we set. Because once we do this, and if we approve it, then we have no idea how many others, different organizations are going to show up. And it's not that we're against prayer or anything or anything like that. I think we have to look at what the chief was talking about as far as the safety and as well as the precedent that could be set, which could be problematic in the future. That's just my take on it.
Madam Chair, may I be heard as a,
Well, when we.
Yes.
I think we should be done with this.
We still have
Okay.
public comment.
Well, it's still public comment, yeah, but is it the same issue? or-
yes, ma'am, this
Okay.
issue. I'm local, John Tanner. Happen to be an attorney, but more importantly, I'm a Flagler Beach, Flagler County resident for many, many years. I believe, under the Constitution, this pastor could go forward with this and be within his First Amendment rights. We don't see permits being issued for protesters by the tens of thousands all across the nation. Every city is recognizing those First Amendment rights. They aren't restricted just to protesters. They also apply equally and more importantly to our religious community. And I believe to tell him he cannot do it, that doesn't mean you have to issue a permit. I don't think they're issuing permits for these protests. The protests are going on. But the First Amendment right is there, and it's being protected and honored by the police, both federally and statewide. And I believe that this pastor and this church or any other church can have a religious gathering, especially when they're assuring it's outdoors and proper social distancing, and there's no danger connected with it. This is just and I don't like to use the term because it's not meant to be insulting. We have a uniform rule, which is good. We need uniform rules, laws, and codes, and we all try to abide by them. But our constitutional rights, especially those most important to us, which I think among those are religious freedom, cannot be held subservient to those rules and laws unless there is a darn good reason, and I don't believe there is legally or factually or medically in this case. So permits you don't have to issue. I believe they could go forward and hopefully not be all arrested and put in buses and taken to jail. I don't think they would be. Thank you.
Penny, you wanted to
I
comment?
just want to clarify that we've told the pastor, Mr. Tanner, that he could move forward under the First Amendment right.
Yes, ma'am, I believe that.
His stages and tents and PAs and things like that, that would not be allowed. So, and he doesn't want to do the event without that. I told him they're perfectly
Yeah.
welcome to gather out there.
Yes, ma'am. And so long as they were, it's the safety and health factor, and I appreciate that and support it. But I don't believe that, hopefully, the city is sending a message that they cannot gather for religious purposes, sing and have a microphone. They just may not be able to do it to the style they would like to. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing me
Penny
to-
explained that, and thank you for that, Penny.
And thank you for allowing me to speak.
Sure. You're a resident, you can speak. Okay, next person.
I got it.
I didn't put anything on it.
I'm glad we do that. I was very uncomfortable with the county yesterday. Everybody got up and spoke and took their masks off when they were speaking, and nobody cleaned the microphone.
Don Deal, Flagler Beach. I respect the diversity of opinions. However, I felt the need to respond to an opinion expressed by one commissioner when discussing my email and the par board recommendation regarding tattoo establishments with regard to location, intensity, compatibility to residential areas. Believe the term used most often was invalid and made no sense. Commissioner expressed tattoo establishments are much less intensive than a high-intensity coffee shop we approved in close proximity to residential area recently, stated made no sense. Commissioner ignored the conditions of approval Larry Torino and I came up with, which were very stringent.
I have 2 emails that I will submit for the record from neighbors in very close proximity thanking us for conditions of approval. Mentioned Commissioner also ignored conditions of approval and called coffee shop a good neighbor, easy to forget they are there. Check with code enforcement, no complaints from residential neighbors in close proximity. Rather ironic, the only complaint was from a business owner who sells coffee. Commissioner was concerned that we may be using a loophole to ban tattoo establishments because the highway commercial district is so small and may not be practical. The day after that commission meeting, I went over and counted a total of 7 vacant places for rent in the Publix and Badcock strip centers. Does that sound like anyone is trying to ban tattoo establishments? Commissioner also mentioned macroeconomics and bike traffic was down. Looking at historical trends regarding collected sales tax in the month of August for 14 straight years, that is true in Volusia County, which was down 44%. However, for the same period in Flagler County, it was up 89%. Commissioner mentioned tattoo establishments are no different than a doctor's office, dentist office, lawyer's office, etc. From a compatibility and noise standpoint in close proximity to a residential area, I respectfully disagree. I refer you to one of the most respected governmental planners in the state of Florida, Brian Teeples. His email states, tattoo establishments should only be located in the highway commercial district. His concern was noise. I'll be more than happy to split the cost with this commissioner if we wish to hire Mr. Brian Teeples with his expert opinion to answer this specific question mentioned, as long as his response is read into the public record. I do not recommend this out of respect for this commissioner. In closing, I believe this is only the second time in over 20 years I had to address a commissioner regarding their remarks. It is not healthy for the city, myself, or this commissioner. Having said that, I hope it stops with my remarks tonight. There's a lot more I can say, but I have chosen not to. Thank you, and I look forward to working with each and every commissioner in the future. And I will give my documents to Penny of the research, and she can make copies for each commissioner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Don. Anyone else? No one else has something they want to talk about? Okay, we'll close public comment, and we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is comprised of a whole bunch of minutes. I'm not going to read all those dates, minus the minutes of the workshop of September 3rd. An agreement for a credit card and e-check processing company for our water bills. A 1-year contract with Preferred Government Insurance Trust for comprehensive citywide insurance. Approve an addition to the cancer coverage for firefighters for our city insurance package. And we had already moved number 11 to later, so it does not include number 11 at this time. Does anybody want to pull any of these items? Rick?
Special meeting of July 20th and September 3rd, and along with the regular meeting of August 20th.
Okay. So we're left with the minutes of the workshop of October 21st
September 3rd.
and August 20,
Oh, no, we don't
the
have that.
special meeting of August 27th.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody want to pull any of the other items?
I'm sorry, you said you had already pulled item 11 from consent?
Yeah, I want to move it down to number,
Right above 15.
with 15.
I just have a question of Rick. Rick, are you pulling the workshop meeting of September 3rd or the special meeting of September 3rd?
We don't have the minutes for the workshop meeting. It's,
Oh, no, the September 3rd, no, you don't.
Right, okay,
yeah, this is for the special meeting.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if any, I'll open it to the public in a second, but when the motion is made, it would be for I'm sorry, I can't read with this.
Workshop
The,
meeting.
yeah, the minutes of October 20, the workshop of October 21st, and the regular meeting of August 20th, plus numbers 8, 9, and 10. Does anybody in the public wish to address any of these? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda. Well, let's just say approve the minutes for the workshop of August 21st and the regular meeting of August 27th.
I'll second.
August 20,
20th.
and August 20, August 27th, sorry.
I
Yes,
said that.
you're right.
I'll second.
And is that also?
Wait a minute, what about 8, 9, and 10? Yes?
Oh,
Oh.
yes, and the remainder of the consent agenda.
Okay.
I'll second. I'll second it all.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Rick, go ahead.
All right, the special meeting, July 20th. It's just a little confusing if somebody goes back and looks at this, just how or where this meeting was done. Usually minutes are in the past tense. But it says the commission will conduct a special meeting on July 20th, immediately following the 5:30 PM workshop. I don't know, if somebody goes and looks back at this, I think it's a little confusing. That's exactly what we did.
But that is what we did.
That's the title of the
Yeah.
agenda title, that's. You're talking about that statement right at the top.
I'm talking about the statement in the black, well, the statement in the top doesn't tell you where it is.
It was a Zoom meeting.
I understand that. But then in the description of the Zoom order doesn't, I don't know, I just think it's confusing for somebody that may look back at it somewhere down the road.
What would you like it to say instead? Because this is what happened.
The Flagler Beach City Commission will conduct a special meeting on July 20th, 2020, immediately following the 5:30 PM workshop, using the committee.
Right, and that's the language I was required to put in through the governor's order, that if you're gonna have the
Uh-huh.
telecommunication meetings, I had to have this statement on there, and that's what this is.
Okay. I just thought it was, typically your minutes are written in the past tense, and that kind of says it will happen. But, okay.
That was on the agenda. I mean, if you'd like me to change that to held, the commission conducted a special meeting, I mean, I can,
That's kind of what I'm thinking. You know, it's not for us so much, but somebody that may look at it back in the future.
If you get them to agree with it, I'll be happy to make that change, sir.
Okay, so instead of will conduct, we have conducted. Everybody good with that?
Sure.
Okay,
The minutes of the special meeting of Thursday, September 3rd. Well, that one does not tell us where or how it was conducted.
So the address is left off.
Yeah, it doesn't say it was done in the commission chambers. The regular meeting of August 20th, item 14, page 5. Consider change order number 3 for the water valve improvements. It only just says Mr. Griffith reviewed the request. But it doesn't say anything about any conversation up amongst us. I voted no. I'm sure I didn't vote no without having something to say as to why I voted no. So there should be something in there about the conversation that commenced amongst the commission. Does that make sense?
I mean, several years back to do the action style minutes. They're not verbatim. They do reflect your vote as no. But once again, if you have a change and you can get your other officials to agree with you, I'll be happy to make that.
The meeting was recorded on YouTube, correct? It's archived?
August 20th, I'd have to, hold on a second.
Because I know some of those were archived. But if anything, you have the audio stream as a minimum, correct? So it's all saved.
Okay.
I'm kind of in the middle of a stream right now, so I can't really, just taking me to my dashboard and I'm.
When I voted not to the consensus on the budget, it doesn't say why I voted no. It just says I voted, We don't, Penny doesn't have to do more than just action minutes.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, so we had a couple of amendments. You want to group them together and make it one motion?
I've documented the changes, and if he wants to include them in the motion, he can, but to add the address to the September 3rd, and to change will conduct to convention on the July 20th.
Right, so the motion only has to be as amended, correct?
That would satisfy me, it's up to you.
Okay. Anybody in the public wish to address any of this? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, look for a motion on those minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as amended of July 20th, 2020, special meeting of July 20, and September 3rd, along with the regular meeting of August 20th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that takes us through up to number 12, a right-of-way encroachment agreement between Alex and Casey Goff and the city of Flagler Beach. Mr. Bayer, do you wish to address us on that?
Good evening, members of the commission. I'm here on a second bite at this apple. We went back after the last meeting, and we do have a video that I sent to Penny earlier. Penny, I don't know if you can pull that up, try to show you the area in question that we're talking about.
I can't put it on screen or anything here. If I was on the Zoom, I could share my screen, but not through here. I can email it to you though.
Okay, that's fine. It was kind of a last-minute idea we had, but
I did provide them last time you were here aerial photos of the property, so, and I think I explained to them, they don't have an area for the children to play, and it's kind of.
it's a very unusual piece of property. But the point to clarify is that the place that we're going to locate the fence, it does not preclude use of this right-of-way. It does not preclude access to the manhole cover that's not adjacent to my client's property, but it's down by his neighbor's property. So there will be no hindrance to the city to maintain the right-of-way. My client's actually been the one that's been mowing it and maintaining it behind his property for a considerable period of time. The last time I came here, I unartfully had this as a right-of-way, as an easement encroachment agreement. We found out, in fact, it's a right-of-way. The agreement provides that the city has no duty to maintain. My clients will indemnify and hold the city harmless from any liabilities arising from the erection of the fence and the maintenance of this piece of property, and that we have 30 days to remove it if there's a request by the city. If, for whatever reason down the road, this right-of-way requires improvement, which I really kind of doubt because it's kind of a dead end behind my client's property. So Mr. Goff is here. He'd be happy to answer any questions. I'd be happy to answer any questions as well. We're just requesting this simple encroachment agreement subject to the terms and conditions that I just outlined.
And I know we talked about this except for the language
Correct.
problem that there was.
Correct.
Does anybody have any questions?
And I really don't think this is going to establish any precedent. This is a very unusual piece of property. I think you can look at the merits and the facts and hopefully approve our request.
Okay. Nobody has any questions? Okay, anybody in the public wish to speak to this? Mr. Goff, do you want to add anything? Okay. So nobody in the public wishes to address it. We'll close public comment and look for a motion.
I will make a motion to approve a right-of-way encroachment agreement between Alex and Casey Goff and the city of Flagler Beach.
Do we need a roll call on this?
Do one if you like.
Do you recommend that we do? Yeah, doesn't it? Yeah, okay.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yes.
Commissioner Bellhummer?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley?
Yes, the motion.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Chair Mealy?
Yes.
Thank you very much, really appreciate it.
Mr. Goff, if you would please extend again the police department's feelings towards your wife. I talked to her today about the passing of her father, so,
Oh,
yeah.
all right, number 13, consider a request to vacate an unimproved city street. And Penny, I guess you're addressing this one.
Yes, ma'am. So I got a call from two residents. Mr. Ecker lives on the north side of the unimproved street, and now the lady's name's just gonna go out of my head. Yes, Miss Lee lives to the south of it, and they were interested, I guess Mr. Ecker is wanting to do some addition to his house or build some type of garage, and he needs some extra room. And it's a street to nowhere, it dead ends to the marsh. There is a property owner behind it, that it doesn't belong to Find or Flagler County, the piece of property behind it. It's a triangular shape. And they do have access through South 15th and South 16th. I showed you in the diagram I put in your packet. So they wouldn't be landlocked. And just if you're interested in vacating this street, the process would be an ordinance would come back to you, would have 2 readings, and if approved, the property would split evenly between the property owners to the north and south. And then they would begin paying taxes on that property. I'd notify the property appraiser, have the map amended.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or concerns? I know we've done this before.
We have, and I told him at this point, the only thing I'm looking for is direction from you if you wish me to draft that ordinance or not, so.
My concern, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
My concern is that we've got a lot of these street extensions that have not been utilized. And part of their argument is the fact that you've got 2 other ones you can use, but what if those people want to do the same thing? I don't have a real problem with the city vacating these properties to somebody that can use them. But it's just like any other piece of land. I think we ought to get a few bucks for it. So that's my thoughts, and their argument that you could go use the access at 15th Street or 16th Street just kind of doesn't make sense when, if somebody wants to do the same thing at those streets, then there is no access.
Well, it wasn't their argument, that was my observation. When she called, I hadn't totally reviewed the request.
Okay.
And that's the first thing that came to mind. I pulled up the property appraisers and I said, look, we can't landlock anybody. I have to research this. I'm just gonna let you know that right off the bat. So if it ever came down to, say, South 16th the owners across from that came and requested the same thing and it was granted, and then later on, the owners at 15th came and asked, I can't speak for someone else in my position, but as long as I was sitting in my
Right.
office and the rest, I wouldn't even bring it to you. I would say, well, you can go speak to them if you want, but as staff, I'm not gonna put that application through to them.
So in theory, we could approve 2 of the 3, but not the 3rd.
In theory,
Right.
yes. You could approve all three, but someone may come back and sue you
Right.
because you landlocked them.
Understood.
Okay, anybody else have a question? Okay. Anybody in the public wish to address this? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and look for a motion. Nobody wants to make a motion?
I had one more question. I've brought this a couple times along, I think, Rick, you might have brought it up in the past too. The city owns many of these, and this is tangible property. It does have value. Is this something that we need to look at?
But it's not a platted lot, sir. It's an unimproved street. I think Drew has talked about this in the past when we had an issue on this on the north side, that we cannot sell that.
Yeah, and there was a reason, there was a legal reason on the north side why we couldn't do that. That
Maybe
other one we
Patrick
were-
can help me out here. I'm not a lawyer.
I don't recall on the north side, but there is something about exacting a cost to vacation, I mean, of a public street that you're no longer going to use and has no more public purpose. There are some constitutional issues there about trying to exact the cost from the abutting landowners.
Plus, we will get the tax money.
You will
From
get the
those two
tax
properties.
money, any recording fees, any fees that are associated. Well, I mean, right now, the Todd over at the property appraisers, he amends the map for me. He doesn't charge me. If I had to go to League of City, Northeast Florida Regional to get them to amend the map, that would be a cost, and of course, I would pass that on to the abutting property owners, but I don't have that cost. I would have the cost for the legal advertisement and the recording fees, which I would split between those two property owners.
Have you heard from the second property owner?
Mr. Ecker, he was the first one to contact me. I haven't spoke to him directly, but he left a message or two, and then that's when the neighbor called and said she was interested in it as well. And I said, well, if you see him, tell him, we're working on it.
He just bought that house there, so he's doing work. And that's how this came up.
This is the one at 17th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can make a
Okay,
motion.
anything else?
I just find it's just a little confusing to me that if they're going to be paying taxes on it, I get that. But obviously, there's some value there.
It's an unimproved street that's been sitting there doing
Right.
nothing.
It's not a platted lot.
I remember, an old
But they're
discussion,
going to
it was
plat it,
illegal.
right? I mean, how can they pay taxes on something that, unless it becomes theirs?
It won't be platted. At that point, it will just be part of their property. The property appraiser will draw their property lines into that, but it still won't be a platted lot.
Okay.
And I don't know if this will help clarify it, but legally, your exercise of vacating that road is a legislative function. And you can't legislate an exaction against the abutting property owner for that property. It gets covered up in the property taxes going forward. But as a legislative function, that's where you run into the constitutional issue of trying to get an exaction from him before you'll do the vacation. You're saying to do the vacation, you have to say that that piece of property serves no more public purpose, but you got to pay me for it. That's an exaction. So,
Okay, can I get a motion now?
I'll make a motion to vacate the unapproved city street.
Second.
And I think we should do a roll call on this too.
It was a motion to vacate. Did you say, I thought you said, okay, I wasn't sure about the unimproved. I couldn't hear. Whoa, sorry, I'll catch up. And Ken, you were my second? Commissioner Bellhumor,
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley,
Yes, the motion.
Commissioner Phillips,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan, Chair Mealy.
Yes. Move on to number 14, listing agreement with Mr. Haran for 1844 South Central.
John's in Delaware,
Oh,
but this is just,
Last regular meeting, you awarded him the to be the broker for the city. It's a 2-year period, unless there's separation by one or both of you. And at that meeting, I told you I'd be asking him to provide you with a listing agreement. He says in his email, he increased the listing price from our last listing of it with our previous broker Realtor by $10,000 because the price has gone up. And you see his terms, 5% if they sell it, 6% if another company brings the client.
Anybody have any comments or questions?
I'm not sure about raising the price when we can sell it the first time.
Gives them negotiating room, I guess. I don't know.
I would be inclined to list it at what we had it at the first time, if I was to give a suggestion.
What does everybody else think?
I would agree because we are trying to, I don't want to say get rid of it, let's just say sell it. That's not a proper term.
Didn't he take the gopher tortoise thing out? So
Yeah,
that-
that was my concern, was
Yeah,
the gopher
so
tortoise
we're-
thing.
If we have to pay for that, then you're losing money.
I think I'll leave it as John's suggesting, because then that gives him room to negotiate. If people expect to do that when they negotiate for properties, and also to the gopher tortoises, that may leave us with a few bucks we can work with to move the tortoises and make this deal work. I mean, that's a big part of it, is the cost.
We've made a very big deal about property owners taking care of gopher tortoises before they do anything to the property. To not include that in this selling of this property, I think, is a mistake. Because then whoever wants to build on it can say, well, I didn't know I had to take care of gopher tortoises. I don't know what everybody else thinks.
I don't know what that means.
You don't know what it means? You're one of the people who's usually talking about gopher tortoises.
Of course, yes. But that, if I go look at a property that I think I might be interested in, that's the first thing I look for. And that's part of what you expect will be the cost to improve that property. And this gives you a little bit of extra room to negotiate with the buyer to have the money to remove the gopher tortoises.
Well, I don't think we should
I
play
thought
games.
the negotiations was in there already.
It's
Yeah.
games. I don't understand what.
I think that when somebody buys a piece of property, they have to know that they have to take care of the gopher tortoises.
Well, we would also have to give I don't know what the form is, but as a seller,
Disclosure.
what's that?
Disclosure?
Yeah, the disclosure. So we would have to, a disclosure would be part of the process of selling this property.
But it should be
And that
in
would
the-
have to be in there.
It should be
about
in
the
this
tortoises.
agreement. And what I read
I'm
is
not
that
gonna
he's
argue
saying
with
he doesn't want it in there.
Let's do it.
So-
I'm sorry, somebody else want to speak to this?
I mean, we're depending on the professional folks here to sell the property. If we can put a disclosure in there that says that, there's tortoises that'll have to possibly be relocated, and the 10,000 is something, a little wiggle room for negotiations, I don't want to argue about it. Let's just move on and get it done.
Where in this agreement does it talk about?
It doesn't,
gopher
it's separate when you do the contract. This is the agreement for him to list the property. And then, once somebody gets interested in it, then a contract is written. If a contract is signed, negotiated by both parties, then that's when the city, as the seller, would have to give the.
And we can insist at that point that there be the disclosure about,
It's legal, you have to.
okay,
Right, and
okay.
You have to.
we still have all that documentation from where we had that. I don't know if some of the tortoises have moved, or maybe had babies and there's more holes, I don't know, but, but we did have the one initial, survey that the, environmentalist person went there.
Madam Chair, I mean, if it makes you feel better, on 14 on the back of the contract is additional terms there in which we could include something relative to the,
It would make me feel better.
I mean, just provides something in there that we could all agree to, I would hope. Well, I think that's the purpose of the additional terms of this contract. But I'm not one of the attorneys in this
Yeah,
room.
I don't know. Patrick, what do you have to say?
It would constitute a counteroffer to them for this contract. You can make it as a counteroffer to paragraph 14.
Well, I think that's
This isn't a
jumping little
contract,
ahead,
though. This
Yeah,
is a
listing.
listing
It's a
agreement.
listing agreement. We can put that in terms.
It'd definitely be in a contract.
No, I'm not talking about the contract on sale, but this is your agreement with them to list the property.
Right.
And what they'll get paid for in the event that you want to change any of those terms, technically that would, you're sending it back to them to say these are additional terms we'd like to include in your listing agreement.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
But you're right in terms of disclosures, that would come, it's a required legal disclosure, it's a required legal disclosure.
Right.
If you make any other count.
There's no to buy the property and us not tell them there's gopher tortoises known to have been there.
Eric, did you want to say something?
Well, I think that is valid, but the listing agreement is just our agreement between ourselves, the city and John to advertise, market the property and then, get us offers. And then at that point, that's when you get into disclosures and inspections and,
Right.
dealing with the buyers and all. For just the listing agreement itself, I don't know if it's a good idea to put in there. I think that would be jumping ahead.
Debbie, you have
Yeah,
anything?
no, I agree. And I'm okay with, he's the expert, I'm okay with 179,000.
We originally
I was
wanted
on the
more
verge.
than that, didn't we?
I think
We
that's
came down
about
a
where
couple of
we came
times.
down a spec, but
Yes, you
we were
did come
somewhere
down.
around there.
Didn't we start it at 189 or
Yeah, and then
something
you
like
came
that?
way down.
He can always amend if it doesn't sell in a reasonable amount of time, he can always amend the listing agreement.
Okay. Okay. Anybody in the public wish to address this? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the listing agreement with John Haran for the sale of 1844 South Central Avenue, as is.
Second.
I think we can just do a voice vote on this one. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now we're going to go back to number 11, which is the employment agreement with the interim city manager.
I'm happy to take it. Drew wanted to present this to you. My understanding is you'd not seen the terms of this before, but you had talked about what to expect in it. Some of the highlights that he wanted me to point out were the effective date that he put in there for September 3rd. That's toward the back of the contract. In fact, it's section 18 down at subsection C. The purpose for that is to avoid the problem of the dual officer holding prohibition, so that when your building official becomes the interim city manager, he's no longer the building official, and when that terminates, he goes back promptly to being the building official, and you have not run afoul of that prohibition in the law. The other terms were to try to meet, I believe, with the conditions that you talked about, to have it no additional terms other than the benefits that would normally have been provided. And other than that, if Liz has anything to offer, I'm also happy to answer any questions you have about any specific terms.
No, I think some of these terms were we discussed at the last special meeting, so those were included in the contract.
And I believe this was presented to Rick, and he had no questions or concerns.
That was one question I had. I was assuming he was part of this. Okay. Anybody have any questions? No?
No, I don't.
Okay, anybody in the public wish to address this? Seeing none, bring it back up here and look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the employment agreement between Richard McFadden and the city of Flagler Beach for the interim manager position.
Second.
Want a roll call?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, no problem. Commissioner Cooley?
Yes, the motion.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Bryan?
Yes.
Commissioner Belhumer?
Yes.
Chair Mealy?
Yes. And number 15 was a follow-up from our August 27th meeting, and I believe you said we were just looking for a date to meet with Mr. Parker.
Yes, he would like to make a presentation, and we're just looking for a date. He cannot, Thursdays will not work for him. The best days are Tuesdays and Wednesdays, earlier in the day, if we could possibly do that. Monday and Thursday, Monday possibly, but it would work better with his schedule, a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Okay.
Are we looking for this month, next month?
Well, you wanted to move?
I thought I thought you had told me we shouldn't do anything till after the budget was done. Did I make that up? Or maybe he said that to me. He didn't say that to you?
I don't recall that. I know he had asked me he wants to put together a presentation and a memo to go out with some information before. He just asked that he have enough time to put that memo together. Other than that, I don't know.
So it should be like a couple weeks from now, so that gives him some time. Is that what you're saying?
Or, yeah, just a little time.
So Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Right, and your calendar is open on the 21st, the flu shots are banned.
That's a Monday.
Okay, they're available the room's available on the 21st, the 22nd, the 28th, and the 29th.
I'm sorry, can you do that again?
Monday, the 21st, Tuesday, the 22nd, Monday, the 28th, and Tuesday, the 29th. And I can go into October if you need me to.
All right. Well, the 22nd is a Tuesday. And the 28th is a Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was giving you Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. It's me, it's totally me. So the 22nd and the 23rd, the room is available. On the 29th, it's available. On the 30th, which is a Wednesday, you do have a special magistrate in here at 3, and you have your 501 second budget hearing. So you'll be here anyway on the 30th.
And Liz, what time was he looking to come in? Did he say specifically?
On Tuesdays and Thursdays, he said he's pretty open. Wednesdays, Tuesdays.
Yes.
Tuesdays and Wednesdays, oh my gosh. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays, the schedule is pretty, he had more flexibility. He did say he would, if possible, earlier in the day, but he was willing to work.
Could I recommend, since we have the budget hearing at 5:01 on the 30th, that maybe we meet at 3 on that day?
There's a special magistrate.
Oh, special
But that's plugged in as a continual
Yeah, they don't
monthly.
always meet.
I do not know if they have an agenda or any cases that will go to that yet. They have to send out notices. I just don't know if they have, let me try to see if I can get in their folder. Hold on.
Question for Penny.
We'll let Penny finish looking for that, and then.
And they do have an appeal of a parking citation. They do have an agenda for that.
No, they do, okay.
Yeah.
Thought it was a good idea, but, Rick?
I would like to see it sooner rather than later. We may choose to or choose not to use their services, and I think the sooner we know that, the quicker we can move
Okay, I was just
forward.
trying to make it convenient that, since we have to be here, that we would,
The 22nd and the 23rd, there's nothing going on in this room.
okay.
Fine and dandy with any time on the 22nd.
Yeah, I know daytimes are hard for you, but you can do it?
Yeah, prefer anytime after 1 or 2 if possible, but try to figure it out.
You think he'd be okay with the 1 o'clock? That's not late, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Do we want to,
1 o'clock on the 22nd? Can
Okay.
you do that? Debbie, is that all right?
And so I don't have to do the signatures in case you want to take any action. Can I set this as a special meeting?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so 1 o'clock. On the 22nd.
we want to do an alternate date in case they can't?
Yeah, Liz is suggesting an alternate
Oh,
date.
you
Want
want
to do
another-
it while we're all
another-
here, an alternate date, just in case he is unable to make it on the 22nd? Just as,
All right, 23rd doesn't work for me. 29th, I'm good all day.
Same thing on the 29th, same time
Yeah, so let's try 1 o'clock on the 29th.
as a backup.
okay.
Okay. Okay, got it. Okay, anything else you needed from us?
I think that's it right now.
Okay, and then from that meeting, he's going to, if we decide to go forward, he'll develop a profile and all that other stuff that we talked about at the last meeting.
He's going to put together a presentation of what services he can provide, and then that would be discussion at your meeting if you want to go, you know, have him assist you, or what all of you want.
That should be interesting. Okay. Anybody have any questions to ask Liz at this point? Thank you, Liz. Okay, move on to the gardens. And
Thank you, Madam Chair. I requested this item be added to the agenda because it was a year ago, almost to the date, that the Flagler Beach Water Wastewater Services was a topic of discussion in special meetings regarding fee structure increases, additional wells, and services in general prior to being implemented. At that time, there was extensive discussion on the additional wells being funded and requirements for redundancy to ensure adequate supply to the current residents of Flagler Beach. The issue of these wells being strictly for redundancy and not for future development was highly discussed, and to some degree, and somewhat contentious during that particular meeting. Leadership was stating that there was no intention whatsoever for the additional wells to be provided water to the gardens or any other future development. There was also extensive discussion on the required increase in rates because former commissioners did not raise rates for many years for various reasons, which caused the reserve for future sustainability of water in the treatment plant to be severely compromised. Thus, the need for building a reserve to meet the challenges of the revenue shortfalls was now needed. During the September 19th, 2019 meeting, the Commissioner's rationale for increased rates then and for the next 3 to 5 years was explained and justified. In January, 4 months later, a letter was sent to the gardens developer indicating that the Flagler Beach could comply with the interlocal agreement to provide adequate water and sanitary sewer capacity for the initial phase and future phases of the gardens, as well as reclaim water. Another letter was sent to the developer July 29th, 2020, noting that the city of Flagler Beach had received a revised design plan and noted again that the city had adequate potable water and wastewater treatment capacity to serve the development that was coming on John Anderson Boulevard. From what I have been able to ascertain, neither of these letters from the city manager seem to have been made available to the commissioners prior to going to the developer, although the July letter was CC'd to the Flagler County Administrator, Fred Griffith, our city engineer, Drew Smith, our attorney, Richard McFadden, building official here for the city, Parker Mickenberg, I hope I pronounced that, Michenberg, the developer's engineer, as well as Michael Schimento, the developer's attorney. Who was missing? The Flagler Beach City Commissioners, the final decision makers and approvers. None of us were informed. Once I expressed the concern and the lack of awareness of the commissioners in regard to the correspondence to the developers, another letter was sent to the Flagler Beach City Commissioners through the city manager from our city engineer. During this time, I also expressed a desire to have a workshop, town hall meeting, or special meeting to discuss and receive an update on the project regarding our obligations and commitments. I requested full disclosure and transparency to the commissioners as well as the public. This was in the planning stage with our city manager prior to the unforeseen and unfortunate circumstances of our city manager. I appreciate everyone's patience during this particular time as I recall briefly the sequence of events, but I think it's important to understand where we are and what exactly is going on with the water, wastewater, reclaimed water, sewer facilities, and the like in our city of Flagler Beach. As a commissioner, I'd like to know what's going on, especially what commitments as large as this have to do with the city. I'd like to be transparent to the people of Flagler Beach and let them know what we are deciding on when it comes to major projects such as this. We have an executive branch. We are the legislative branch of the local government and responsible for final approvals. I've been keeping up with some of the projects in regard to this particular gardens project, and I have some general knowledge of developments, but some of my fellow commissioners, and certainly many of the public as a whole, is not and all also have a right to know what's going on, especially if we have agreements that we have to comply with and we're going to be obligated for. And the utility services as well, and another development that may impact the city and the city's residents. I've spoken to our city engineer, as well as our acting city manager, Matt Downing, about this project and provided them with questions I have received from residents throughout the community. They will be going over these questions and responding to these as well as others that you may have from the audience tonight. They will deliver an overview of the water and wastewater services in regard to where we are, how much is available, and how much it may or may not be impacting us as Flagler Beach residents and users. I have provided some of these questions to Matt as well as the city engineer, and I had a meeting with them because one of the things I never try to do is to catch our staff short on this or basically put them in a position of not being able to respond. That's why I provided them an opportunity to be able to respond to some of the concerns that our community has as well as I have. And as I said, I'm not trying to point fingers. All I'm doing is trying to resolve some issues here and make sure that we're transparent so we know what's happening as we move along. One of the last things I want to happen is for us to get, I hate to swear, but screwed over by the developers. I want to make sure that we are transparent. I want to make sure that we're getting what we're delivering and it's negotiated in a proper and a fair manner. So at that particular point, I'd like to turn it over to our acting city manager, who's had his hands full, especially with me meeting with him as much as I possibly can. But I thank you for your time, and the reason I took a little time to go over this, because a lot of people are not familiar with the history of what has transpired over the last year. This time last year, I was not a commissioner. Matter of fact, I was happily fishing, restoring cars, and not getting too involved in the community, and here I am. But I don't regret it at all, because I think it's also part of our duty to get involved with the community, to make sure we have a great continued developments here and great community of Flagler Beach. So I'll turn it over to you, Matt, or Madam Chair, if you'd like to take it over at this point. That's up to you.
I talked with Matt about this yesterday, too. You want to, not everybody has all the questions. I am assuming they're the questions that the Preserve Flagler Beach concerned citizens.
Yes, ma'am, those are the ones that were provided to me by.
And I happen to be
Commissioner
on
Brown.
their email list, so I got the questions, but not everybody has them, I don't think.
I don't have a problem reading the questions out loud.
So, yeah, if you would do that.
Absolutely.
And maybe we have staff here that can.
We do. We have Jim Raymer from the water treatment plant and our city engineer, Fred Griffith, are here. I asked them to be
Maybe
here.
both of you would like to come up front. We need, so you'll be here when we need you. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
One can stand, one can sit.
I'll take this.
And having Fred and Jim here is really important because they're the subject matter experts when it comes to
Right.
water and sewer. And sitting in this seat in the last week, I've learned a lot about PUDs and plats and plots and things that really never were in my wheelhouse before. So that, when Commissioner Bryan brought this up at the last meeting, I think it's absolutely paramount that when it comes to any development, and whatever has to do with city government, that transparency, like you said, Commissioner, is of the utmost importance. And, the first question that was posed to me is really not a question so much as it is a statement. And the first one is, the interim and future city manager have to have a clear understanding that any promises to the developers over city-supplied services and utilities must be vetted and approved by the city commission. I think that, it's not a question, it's more of a statement, and I agree with it 100%. Whether it's the gardens or any other development that want to come into this city, and not only the commission, but the community has a vote. And they need to hear it, and they need to know exactly what is promised and what is not promised. So as of right now, when it comes to the gardens, the only things that we've committed to that I'm aware of are water and sewer. That's it. We haven't committed to anything else. So for the first question, again, it's more of a statement, and I would recommend that when our new city manager comes on board, I'll sit down with Rick when he comes in Monday and explain it, because he's not here tonight, as will Chief Pace. This is very, very important moving forward for this development or any development that comes in the city. So the second question is, water and facilities must be analyzed with the 5 to 10-year projections for supply, facilities, repairs, et cetera, along with projected costs. The comprehensive improvement plan, and Fred can explain that, or Jim can explain that. There's going to be infrastructure maintenance costs over the first 10 to 20 years, and operational costs would increase. However, collected revenues from increased water sales should help with that, with the comprehensive improvement plan. And if, Jim, if you want to speak to what it'll do for your department, or Fred, you want to speak to how it'll go?
Well, let me start. First of all, I'm not new to the game. I've been in municipal government and utilities primarily for almost 30 years. And, half of Port Orange developed while I was basically overseeing the utility as a utility engineer. So I'm well-versed in dealing with developers and protecting the city interests and writing availability letters for city managers, actually writing them for myself. I pretty much worked unilaterally in Port Orange. First of all, I just want to mention to you, just to refresh your memory, that the city currently has a utility use agreement with the county to serve the John Anderson corridor. And this actually happens to be the first major development within that area. One interesting part of that agreement basically states that we have to treat that development charges, impact fees, connection fees, everything, the same as we would if they were inside the city of Flagler Beach. Okay, but we currently have that agreement with the county. Obviously, any agreement can be broken, but if you break, in my opinion, my professional opinion, if you break the agreement, you're basically telling the county, hey, we had this agreement with you, but we don't really want to serve that area, and you're basically foregoing the rest, okay? And I just want to mention to you, before I get too far off tangent, 335 units correlates to $2 million in water and sewer impact fees and connection fees, $2 million. This development, this 335 unit development, which is what they're proposing right now, correlates to about 60,000 gallons a day. Okay, 60,000 gallons of water a day, plus or minus, okay? Currently, we're treating about a little over 600 to 700,000 gallons of water a day, which Jim can verify. So basically, this is another 10%, okay, over 5 years, because 335 houses are not going to be built tomorrow, okay? Even if they put the infrastructure in the next year and a half, it's going to, as Commissioner Bellhummer will attest to, it's going to take probably at least 5 years or more for those 335 units to be occupied and developed. Okay, so that will increase our growth of our utility system volume-wise for the water and sewer plant about 2% a year, because you divide 10% over 5, 10 divided by 5 is 2% a year, okay? That's not much more than what we currently having over here on the island, and as I'm sure Commissioner Bellhummer will tell you, we've got a limited number of vacant lots, and eventually the development will dissipate because not having vacant lots available, okay? So I just want to let you know, growth does help. And the reason why growth helps is because those costs of running your system have to be spread out over all your customers. The more customers you have, the easier you can, the less each has to pay, okay? There are additional costs involved, okay, in providing more water and more sewer to residents, okay, in a growing utility. However, you have fixed costs. It's just like, as I explained to a couple of commissioners when I had the opportunity to talk to, if you have a bank, okay, the bank, you've got a building, you've got a cost of that bank, okay? It doesn't matter how many customers you have, you still got to pay for that bank, okay? We have a 2 million gallon water treatment plant currently, okay? It's operating at about 600,000?
626,000.
626,000 gallons a day, okay, currently. Okay, this would be another 10%. In the next 5 years, it'll grow to 10%. Okay, you have a 2 million gallon plant that's operating at a little over 600,000 gallons a day, okay? We have this is kind of complicated, but it's important. We have a consumptive use permit. Basically, it allows us to pump up to 900,000 gallons a day out of the aquifer. Okay? We currently have 4 wells, operating wells, right? 4 wells, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Well 14, I'm happy to say, is about to go operational, okay? They're retrofitting, they had a good, successful pumping out of well 14. Now they've got to retrofit the pumps and the electrical and get everything outfitted. We're hoping within the next couple months, 2 to 3 months, we'll have well 14 operating, okay? And then the other question, the big question was redundancy. Why do you need more wells? Jim informed me that we used to have 8 wells and operating at one time.
We had 8 wells of the old plant, and it would, for a 1 million gallon a day plant, the wells could produce up to 2.3 million. So every plant around here has got double their capacity of what the plant can actually use. Palm Coast, Plant 2, for example, it's a 7.5 million gallon a day plant. They have over 13 million in capacity that they could pump. So every plant's got double their capacity in wells. Say we have 4 right now, we'd like to have 8, so it gives you 4 million in pumpage.
You need to rotate your wells.
Yeah.
You don't want to run your wells
You don't
forever.
want to damage the aquifer.
You got to let
That's
them
what we're trying to
rest.
do.
Let the wells rest. Let
Yeah.
the water table come back. Yes, sir.
You did mention that we were only licensed to retrieve half of that, though, or 900 and some thousand, you said a day. So.
Let me explain how that works, because that's
So
a
you're
good
talking 2
question.
million, but we're only
Yeah, that's a good
allowed to
question.
suck so much out, so.
St. John's River Water Management District is only going to permit you to pull the water out of the ground that you need, okay, that you've shown a need for.
Okay.
Okay, because they want to manage the aquifer. They don't want us to over pump our wells. They don't want us to waste our water. We have to do a conservation report, I think every couple of years, showing them how we're accounting for all the water we're using, and we're not wasting it. So, but they're only going to permit what they think is reasonable that we need to serve our population that we have. Does that help a little bit?
So should we need higher volume over time, then that won't be hard to get their blessing?
I can't
So-
guarantee you anything, okay?
Right.
I can't guarantee you what St. John's is going to do,
Right.
okay? I'll tell you what they're going towards, wanting to see us do reclaim water. They're going towards wanting us to get out of the river. They don't like to see us dumping all that water in the river. They want to see that being a use, a positive use to help recharge the aquifer. And it makes sense. You're pulling water out of the ground, let's put the water back in the ground. So they're in favor of doing that. I'm hopeful that they're going to provide grants to help us pay for our reclaimed water plant. Possibly, I got grants from St. John's 30 years ago for reclaimed water distribution systems. So there's money out there. They're already, I already made a presentation last year for them to fund a study for reclaimed water, okay? So that's where it's going, as most of you already know. They don't want us to be just putting water back in the river. One of the issues we have, which if Johnny Lynn was here, he would mention to you that the high salt content in our effluent is an issue. And that's due to the fact that groundwater coming into our sewer system is salty, okay? Now, the slip lining that we're doing is optimistically going to help that, okay? We aren't, Jim isn't producing salt water, are you, Jim?
Well, our concentrates.
We're not selling salty water to through the potable system. So when it comes back, it's salty. And the reason it's salty is because you have groundwater infiltration into the system. Okay? So that's one thing where when we make a decision, you'll need to make a decision in the future on what we want to do with reclaimed water, if we want to go that route. I've already asked our consultants to tell me what the additional cost will be, okay? And as Commissioner Bryan heard at their planning meeting over at the county, somebody, I won't mention his name, but somebody mentioned free reclaimed water. Well, that's a nasty word in utilities. There's nothing free. There's nothing free. So the commission will have to make a decision in the future on how we want to market our reclaimed water. And I'll leave it at that for now.
And
But
there
that's an
will come a
important factor.
time when the district will tell us we have to have it.
Right, there's gonna come a time where DEP is gonna say, you can't do what you're doing. And that reclaimed water is gonna have to go somewhere. So again, that's all negotiable. That's way down the road.
Well, it's down the road. I don't know how far down the road, but it
So
is down the
how
road.
far down it is, but that's something, if we have it and somebody wants to buy our reclaimed water, as opposed to dumping it, which we're doing now for free, somebody wants to buy it, then that's something that the commission, then it's gonna have to be negotiated.
But the point on the wells is we do need to have redundancy. There's no point in having, the reason we have a city, the reason we have a police department is because we have a city. The reason we have a city is because we have water. If we didn't have water, we would not have a city, okay? So, and the point of, you can have the biggest water plant in the world, okay? The greatest water distribution system in the world. But if you don't have wells to provide that water, what have you got? You got, the water plant's useless without water. So, and so we're managing our aquifer. We're basically surrounded right now by Palm Coast well fields. Okay, we drill the wells where the aquifer is. Jim's doing an outstanding job managing our well field. You're doing an outstanding job because we have the fifth well almost in operation, and we've funded well 15 that we're going to start under construction hopefully this coming year. So those are all good things.
Jim, did you want to add something?
No, like I said, we need a redundant system. Every plant I've worked for, or that I've talked to, they've always got, like I said, more wells and capacity than their plant can handle, so that they can rotate the wells and rest the wells that are in service periodically, so you're not beating the aquifer up.
Port Orange has 28. Of course, their system is 10 times as big as ours, okay?
Well, it's the biggest city too.
Actually, they got more than 20. I think they had 40 when I left. because they had two different well fields, so they had four.
They're a much
They're
bigger
a little
city.
bit bigger than.
So they had 10, well, you think about it, they have 10 times as many wells, and their system is 10 times as big as ours.
So moving on to question 3, it was kind of very confusing when I read it. Why was the city so emphatic September 19th of 2019 when the water rates were increased that their actions were only for redundancy, and now a year later, the letter from the city manager states something contrary? I think Fred just spoke to that. It's the redundancy of the wells. And again, the layperson, when I'm sitting down talking to engineers, and they're talking about wells, 10, 11, 12, and 13, my question was, what happened to the ones before 10? Well, they're no longer existing. So as Fred just said, we have 10, 11, 12, and 13 that are up right now. They're finishing 14, and next year's budgeted for 15.
Yes, sir.
So that's just to continue our service. The well 15 is not for any future development. It's just for the redundancy of what we currently have. So I think we can move on.
And they've been in the budget, I went back 6 years. Yeah, before I lost interest. I could have probably gone back further, but.
We recently had to recondition our wells, and there are things that you have to, sometimes you have to reduce the pumping rate.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that those wells have been in the budget for at least 6 years.
Well, we were trying to get the land. That was one of the holding points on that, trying to get the land for the wells.
We secured the land this past year.
Well, Madam Chair, just to address that and clarify the question, Matt, when I spoke to the individuals in regard to that question, there was some confusion about it because during the September 19, 2019 meeting, it appeared that the commissioners at the time had no knowledge whatsoever about the future plans of providing water to the development. Because at that particular meeting, it was stated that these wells will not provide any water whatsoever to any developer, to the gardens or any other development. So when I spoke to the group, that's what they were talking about in that particular question there. So the impression was at that particular time is that the public was being deceived. And I'm just basically, because I spoke to them extensively about what this meant. And that's what the public was confused about, because they're saying, we asked, why are you digging these wells? And they said for redundancy and it's not for development. So that's addressing that particular question there.
Okay.
And hopefully clearing up the issues that were of concern at that time. And here again, I think it goes back to the issue of transparency that we addressed initially and that we will have in the future in regard to the commissioners as well as the public. And not going to beat a dead horse, but here again, being redundant. I think it's very, very important that we be transparent to everyone in order to avoid confusion and also to avoid individuals from making up their own stories when you don't know what's going on.
Exactly, and I concur, Commissioner. Question number 4 was, how much will Flagler Beach residents be responsible for paying now to provide utility service to the developers? And the question is 0. We anticipate an additional, charging water to the gardens as another revenue source for us. The developer is going to be paying for all utility infrastructure costs to connect, which is normal for all developments. So,
This development is the optimum location for you to serve it with utilities. There's a 12-inch water line going right by there, and the lift station is right next door. And the wastewater treatment plant is right next door. And the developer will pay all the construction costs, all the permitting costs, all the review fees, and they'll meet city standards. I've reviewed 2 sets of drawings so far and given them 2 sets of comments, and they'll be submitting another set of comments, hopefully to satisfy me and the standard details which you guys have provided. And to be honest with you, my understanding, I think Larry, I don't want to speak for Larry, but I'm going to speak for Larry. Larry and I both felt, I believe, that, we had an approved agreement to serve this area. It was a 2% growth over 5 years. We currently had the water and sewer capacity, which we put in the letter, let them know it was available, and the capacity was available. And let me just say this. Where you commit water and sewer to a development is when generally speaking, it's been the city public works director or the city engineer to sign the permit applications, basically committing to the DEP, the FDP, that you will serve this development when they construct their utility lines. Okay, you approve their connection, basically. I have not signed those permits yet. So basically, aside from those letters of intent that we've sent to them, where the rubber really meets the road is when I or the city manager, and generally it's been me in the past for the last 30 years, signs the permit application that the engineer has prepared, and the permit goes with the design drawings, and basically the city commits to serving this development with water and sewer. So that has not occurred yet. I fully intend to, I fully expect it to occur. I think after Commissioner Bryan's comments, we may want to come back to you and get a final approval if we don't get it tonight. Before I sign the permit, I'm not going to do something on both two permits on my own, okay? So,
Chair, can I ask a question? Fred, so just so I understand, the water and sewer lines are there already, correct?
no, well, the connection, everything they're going to build, they'll have to pay for.
Correct.
We have a 12-inch water line running down John Anderson. We have a 16-inch water line crossing the river at State Road 100, okay? They're intending to connect to the 12-inch water line on John Anderson at both of the connection streets.
Okay, that was my question.
And they plan to connect to the 6-inch force main that comes up from Bulow Estates.
Okay, and that they will pay for.
They'll pay for everything, including the permitting and my review fees and all that.
And on top of that, they're paying $2 million in impacts.
Plus, we'll be collecting $2 million in impact and connection fees over the next 5 years, if that's
Oh,
however long it
that's
takes.
impact and connection fees?
Yeah, basically, you can do the math,
They're two separate
335 times over $5,000 per unit for impact fees. And we have $950 for sewer connect, and we have $670 currently for water connects. So it ends up to being about $6,500 per unit times 335, you get a little over $2 million.
Okay, any other questions right now? Okay.
So question number 5 was, when the city provides utilities to the developers, will this result in a rollback on the water rate? And talking with Fred, the answer is no, not necessarily. The utility revenues are going to balance out the utility cost, and where the benefits are going to occur is on future infrastructure costs. So that'll be assisted by future water and sewer impact fees to be collected, just like you talked about. Those impact fees are going to offset a lot of, all that. And will it go to rollback on the water rate? We're not exactly sure. That's a water.
Utility costs are going to increase, electricity is going to increase all the time, so I can't give you any guarantees. It will, as Matt said, it'll help, it should help prevent the raising of rates, or slow down the raising of rates
Okay, I
in the
was going
future.
to say that.
Right.
Kathleen has said every year
Right,
that
and-
we need to keep raising the rates.
Right, and there's
With this addition,
Yeah, there's a
the
question. number
rates
10
will
about
not go up as much,
Right, yeah.
because there are more people paying into it.
Exactly, more customers paying should offset that, so.
And new infrastructure as opposed to aging infrastructure.
Right.
So with the new customers, there'll be less repairs associated with it.
Over the first 10 or 15 years, you would not expect.
Right.
And certainly I don't expect and will not allow a lot of maintenance costs on a new system.
And this stuff goes back, to 2006. I mean, you're talking years and years ago, and we're talking to the chair the other day about it, and Commissioner Bryan, I was working homicides in Daytona when this agreement was signed, so you try to go back and find out all the stuff, it's kind of amazing, so. The next question is, has studies been done to determine the minimum and maximum amount of water that can be provided? And the answer is yes, we can provide our water and sewer capacity numbers or projected flow increases, which are minimal for 335 living unit developments as presently proposed. Like Fred said, approximately a 5% increase over a 5-year build
It's
out.
a 10% over 5 years, 10% over 5 years. That's my estimate.
And Jim, you feel that you can do that?
Yeah, we talked to the engineers, they did some crunching the numbers, and they were saying that if we ever had to expand the water plant, they're saying maybe 2043. So we're just, see what development they're gonna, how many homes they're gonna put in, then we'll know the numbers. Then we can go to St. John's and review our cut permit, expand it, plus, then look at
The limitation is our well field
Yeah.
right now. Our plant is 2 million gallons. Okay, the limitation is our well field capacity.
See, we can work with two regulatory agencies.
Yeah.
The well field is with St. John's, the plant is with DEP. And they're never, ever coordinating with each other. So you're trying to please both of them, and that's where work comes.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Question 7 is how much will the developers pay to connect and how much taxpayer dollars will be spent upfront to provide the service? And then Fred's response was existing utility payers will not be providing any costs upfront for allowing them to extend water and sewer services. All construction costs, review costs, permit fees will be paid by the developer as normal practice.
comments on that?
No, Fred explained that
Yep,
very
he
well.
did, he did.
And then question 8 is, has the Flagler Beach City staff been involved in a process with the county on this development since commissioners were insistent that there was nothing the city of Flagler Beach could do in regard to the gardens development? The city engineering and utility staff has cooperated with the county in the review of the development's engineering design drawings and permit applications in regards to the aspects of providing them with utility services. The last contact that I had other than just before the meeting with Mr. Schimento was the 28th of July. Mr. Newsom, myself, Chief Pace, Mr. Schimento, Mr. Belshi met here, and Larry wanted to know what the gardens needed to move forward, and it was a letter about providing water and sewer service. That letter was provided on the 29th. I know Chair Mealy had a little addendum to it, and the only thing we're talking about is providing water and sewers to the 335 homes. Other than that, since the 28th, I'm not aware of any other city staff that's had any interaction with Mr. Belshi or Mr. Schimento.
Good.
As of when?
The 28th was the last meeting that I was involved in, the 28th of July.
Okay. Well, I do know that this was kind of looked over by staff from all departments that our city manager thought may have some good input on. So that definitely included the planning department.
Right, and
So I don't want people to think that the engineering or the water involved with this development was the only thing that was reviewed by city staff.
right, and
It was put in front of everybody, including the police and fire.
right, and there's
And-
been no agreements with anybody with regards to reclaimed water, fire, police, any of that. And at that meeting, we had all agreed that, the developer had to go through the county process with the plat and the PUD. Now, we wouldn't even begin to talk to them till after that was over. So, like I said, the last time I had talked to Mr. Belshi or Mr. Schimento was at that meeting, and until I'm directed by the board to talk as my job as the police chief about future development, this is it for me here, so.
I guess we can move on.
How many more is we got?
Number 9, there's only a couple more. Were there any discussions on how to pay for the infrastructure? And I think Fred's kind of gone over that. I think the future for the benefit of the city is that reclaimed water that we talked about. I think that's huge. And I think when the new city manager comes on board with the assistance of the commission, again, in full transparency, we have something that's extremely important that they're going to need that we can negotiate with them. So when it comes to reclaimed water, that's something I think that's a benefit for us and for them. We just have to figure out how to do it. Number 10 was, how are the water rate increases determined when the rates were raised? Kathleen's not here today, but she did provide a response that in 2007, which was a year that we as a city entered into the repayment of the state revolving loan for the water plant, it was pointed out that our water base fee should be increased $20 per month per residential unit. And she provided a document, hopefully that you all have it, that we did not reach that amount until 2018. So those rates had not been increased for a long time, and we did get some time to catch up, but, we're there now, and hopefully with future growth, with other people helping to pay for it, like we said, we can maybe get to rollback. And then number 11 is, what are the current test numbers to support adequate water supply and pressure for the requested supply? I know Fred's got a document on that. I think he provided it to you, Commissioner Bryant. That's pretty extensive. He said he'll show that to anybody that wants to see it, but it's a pretty lengthy document. And then the last one was, has there been a current analysis of the retention areas which run parallel on Pond Drive, which were designed to provide flood relief for water runoff? I know there's a retention pond over on Pond that, Fred and I had talked about the city looking at, but behind there, that's maybe 300 feet is ours. I have no idea when the last time that there's been a survey done.
Okay, I think that concludes the questions that I had received from the public. I really appreciate you looking into this, Matt. Like you said, this was not your wheelhouse, but I'm sure you're becoming a specialist on this now. And I think some of us are as well. And again, the idea behind putting this on the agenda was to be able to provide some information to not only my fellow commissioners and the mayor, but also individuals in the community who have no idea what's going on. They only see what's going on in the paper or they hear rumors. And I think it's important that we continue to keep everyone informed of the progress as we move along, and I'm confident that will occur. So I think that pretty much concludes the comments that I have, and there may be some, of course, this is the chairman's job now, to entertain any questions from the public. I'm stepping on your toes, sorry.
Commissioner, I think it's really good that there's a lot of passionate people in the audience, the citizens that want to know this knowledge so that they're educated as to exactly what it is. And kudos for our community for getting involved and wanting to know, what exactly is going on. So again, transparency, you just can't put a price tag on that, so.
Okay, Jim, if you'll sit, I'm going to ask if people in the public have any. I didn't mean you hide in the back.
Call back.
Does anybody in the public wish to ask questions or make comments?
My name is Sally Arnoff, and I live in Sugar Mill. I have a couple of related questions. When you were talking about the retention pond, and I'll go to that one first, you said you had 300 feet of that pond that you're responsible for. Does the water district have a permit that you have to maintain for that retention pond?
Are you speaking of the Palm Drive retention
Yes.
pond?
Yes.
I have not got it currently in my file. I can certainly request it from St. John's. I'm sure there's a stormwater permit governing that area, covering that retention pond.
And the maintenance of that retention pond has to be to somewhere. Does it come?
And interestingly enough, I had a meeting with our maintenance supervisor actually this morning, and I spoke to a consultant about looking at the request of the commission, or leading me that direction to look at our stormwater systems that were built over the last 7 or 8 years, and I was adding that retention pond to the list. And in my view, looking at it, it needs to be desilted. We need to get in there and dig it out.
Yes, I know that when St. John's gives the permit for a development that is later taken over by an HOA, the permit then, St. John's gives that over to the HOA with the
Yeah.
responsibility for maintenance. I didn't know
Yeah.
how it worked.
I'm sorry, but I can't tell you if it's
I'll be
the
able to
city
tell you.
responsibility or the HOA responsibility. What?
I don't think there's an HOA behind Palm Drive.
Well, then it's our responsibility to take care of it.
I was going to
Probably
say,
more like me, but, and now everybody's going to
I'll
support.
just let you know, this is something that is on my radar very front.
Well, it's on my list.
And I'm working with St. John's Water Management District because I'm not sure, I have a map and Ken can share it with you. The retention pond that is behind Palm Drive that routinely breaches the berm during an everyday rain event, not even one of the heavy rain events, but an everyday rain event. We have residents that have given us pictures of everyday rain event where the berm is breached. That pond runs into and is part of, there is no break between that pond and the ponds that are in the gardens. So when the gardens is going to be built on fill, and that is not as permeable as regular land, then you disagree?
Well, let me just say this, and number one, I don't know everything about that area right now. However, stormwater permitting requires that any off-site runoff coming into the gardens would have to be taken care of, okay?
I was going to ask you for that.
And obviously the gardens, well, it's obvious to me, the gardens is not located immediately west, of course, of Palm.
The pond
But it does drain
adjoins.
south, like you said.
Time.
Okay.
Okay.
Fred, I have the map here that she's talking about because she sent this to me earlier.
Okay.
And I'll give it to Penny so that everyone has a copy of what she's referring to here.
Thank you.
Because this was a give and take discussion.
Sally, we have 3-minute limits.
I feel like because he interrupted her.
Well,
Don't interrupt him.
Sorry.
all right, one more minute. Sorry.
When you were talking about the developer knowing the cost, you're transferring all of the cost to the developer. Is the developer aware of what this agreement is going to be? And at what point in time will there be an exchange to have them commit to pay for what we expect them to pay? I mean, it's easy to be saying that they're going to pay for all the costs and all of this and everything, and that the city isn't going to pay anything. But without an agreement and the developer agreeing to that, is there any guarantee? And at what point will that happen? Meaning, if the PUD and if the preliminary plan is up for approval now, the end result of that approval is the development order to start clearing the land.
The city's not going to go onto that property and put any plumbing in.
I understand.
That's all on them.
Oh, I
And
understand.
they,
But there's going to
any
be a...
developer's going to have that total understanding that it's all on
I'm
them.
not, I've seen other understandings with developers, and that is not included.
Can I speak or not?
Yes.
Number one, I was speaking to the utilities earlier, okay? The developer is going to pay for all the utilities. As far as stormwater, what you're addressing right now, they have to apply for a stormwater permit to the St. John's River Water Management District. They have to maintain their stormwater on their property as well as any contributory runoff coming from the north, which would be from Palm area. And I'd be glad to get a copy of that permit. I do not currently have that. I've spoken to a couple folks in administration about getting that. It appears that maybe that'd be the best thing to do. And we're also going to look at the Palm retention area and make sure it's properly maintained. And I'll give you my card so you can come see me, because I got 8 hours a day to talk to you then,
Right.
or more.
Yeah, fitting this in 3 minutes is kind of tough.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else have anything they want to ask or talk about?
Hi, Stephanie Luther, North Daytona, Flagler Beach. I just have a quick question. I'm confused, so I apologize. The agreement to provide water to the project is already agreed upon? There's no vote? We're already doing that. Is that correct? I'm confused. I'm just not clear. Can you clarify that?
In 2006.
Way back.
Way back.
Right, you are.
When he was still doing homicide.
So there's no future vote. We've already agreed as a city that we're going to provide that water for the 335 homes.
No. In 2006, we agreed between the county and Palm Coast and the city of Flagler Beach, that Flagler Beach would provide the water for the John Anderson corridor. There was no gardens project at that time.
Okay.
And so that was the agreement.
So is there still a vote to be had by the commissioners
No,
to
we-
supply the
We're
gardens?
encumbered to provide
It
water
covered
to the
that.
John Anderson corridor, which the gardens is part of.
So there will be no vote. It's already been agreed upon.
If we don't.
I just want to try to understand it.
Okay,
There's really no
I
vote,
wasn't sure
right?
I would say this. If we don't provide the water, guess who's going to provide the water? Palm Coast, which was.
No
the-
control, then we have.
Which was the original reason we made the agreement back in 2006.
So there's no discussion going further. We are providing the water as a city. and
As long as we have the capacity.
Do we have the capacity?
We have the capacity.
Even if all the lots on the island are built upon, because every day we all see it, every lot, I mean, every day they're clearing a new lot. So even with all those lots, and I've heard a number, like there's less than 100 of those, with that and the gardens, we have enough capacity? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I can
Yes.
address what she's addressing here. I actually have a copy of the court order. This was actually produced during the water wars, and I think our attorney might be looking at this right here, but this is what went through the court during the water wars, which required, if you will, or granted Flagler Beach the right to provide water and not Palm Coast. And it's dated and stamped right here, and I have copies of it if anyone wants a copy of it.
Very thrilling reading. Oh, it is.
Tell me about Reddit.
It's very exciting. I've got about 12 iterations of it because I can't remember which is the final one.
Can I just say something? I just think there's a lot of confusion with the residents. They think you have a vote coming.
Right.
And I think that needs to be clarified that you don't, right? There's no vote that's coming to the commission. It's already agreed upon back in 2006. So there's a lot of confusion on that. So I just wanted to try to clarify that because it's not been said in layman's terms.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Well, and to hopefully help clarify even further, we have a water district that goes further past that. And anybody else outside of the gardens that builds in that water district, we're going to be supplying water for those folks also, not just the gardens. Now, if you have a development come in and do something that is outside of building codes that requires tons and tons of exceptions and all kinds of special approvals, we're not obligated to push past our capacity.
Right.
And per FDEP, we have to stay below a certain threshold of that capacity as a buffer. And that's all regulated, and that, there's no exceptions to that. We're also not obligated to handle that at our cost if they want to go outside of building codes and go into major high-density type developments that require special approvals. But if you build to current building codes in our water district, we supply the water. And that's actually protected. That's that court order is to keep other jurisdictions from, basically taking our customers.
That's right.
So hopefully that helps.
And the rate that they have to pay is the same as a resident would pay. So it's not like they're getting charged a different rate than what a Flagler Beach resident would be paying.
Okay, Stephanie, were your questions answered?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Don?
Don Deere, Flagler Beach. I haven't read the agreement, so I'm kind of on the outside looking in on this, but does the original agreement, I know, and Fred had mentioned this earlier, we know for years we've been dumping our water in the intercoastal. And I assume are we calling that a reclaimed water, Fred? Is that, I heard that
It's
terminology.
highly treated effluent water.
Right, okay. So I guess my question is, does the original agreement specify, I know that Gim was going to build an 18-hole golf course. Does the original agreement specify that they would be taking this water? It was,
The agreement we had with Bobby Ginn, yes. The agreement that Ken just showed had nothing to do with Bobby Ginn or anybody else.
So
that was not part of it.
There's no agreement to provide anybody reclaimed water till this commission decides.
okay, I guess what my concern is, always playing the devil advocate here, what happens, I mean, we assume there's a market for it, we assume they're going to need it, we assume we're going to negotiate. What happens if they don't build 18 holes, they only build 9? Just a scenario, and they don't have a need for all of our reclaimed water, and then St. John's and DEP comes back and says, Flagler Beach, you need to get this out of the intercoastal. What are we going to do? What recourse do we have back against this development, if any? Should that be in our negotiation process if we have that ability to negotiate? So that's the concern I have. I just want to make sure that we know we're going to have to get it out of the intercoastal at some time in the future. We don't know when that's going to be, but I want to make sure if we have the ability to make sure that we can keep the hammer down and make sure that we can come out ahead and they do take this water. That's what my concern is. So I just want to make sure if it's not in there and we have the ability to negotiate now, maybe not the price, but we have to confirm that we have the ability to have them take this water so the taxpayers don't get stuck with.
I just want to mention, I've got 25 years of reclaimed water experience, so I'm going to properly advise our commission to make the right decision, and we're not going to build anything that we can't use, and we're going to make sure the developer pays his fair share. He wants reclaimed water, I'm sorry, but he'll have to pay for it.
What if he says he doesn't want it?
That's my point.
Well,
What if he
that's
says he
Point.
can't use all
What
of
if he
it?
says, I don't need your reclaimed water?
Then we'll look for other customers, and we won't retrofit our plant to go to that high level of treatment.
But I think, to Don's point, that's a great thing to know up front before it goes any further.
I didn't mention to you, but, we need to, with the signing of the water and sewer permits, we need to agree to a utility agreement. I think I shared with Commissioner Bryan, I should have shared with all of you, and I apologize for that. We have a draft utility agreement, which we have to, and they'd like to include the reclaimed water, but that's going to take some negotiation on the reclaimed water side.
Well, let me ask you this, and maybe this is a question for the attorney. And I'm sorry, Don, you'll get your minutes.
No, that's okay. I raised the point. I think I made the point. I'm concerned about it. I want to make
Yeah.
sure we're protected.
If this is moving, this is county property, obviously, we're just providing the sewer and water. If this does move forward with the county, if at the next meeting they decide to go ahead and move forward with this project, when do we get to say, hey, you have to,
Well, your rights and your obligations are spelled out in the agreement. And just to add a little bit more detail to it, you're supplying the water, but you're supplying the water as a wholesaler to the county, and then the county's providing it to the property. So there are,
We're not going to do that.
Yes, we are.
that's what the agreement
You're
is.
talking about the drinking water? Are you talking potable water, or drinking water?
I'm talking about the water that's talked about in the agreement, of making you all a wholesaler.
Well, that
in the
needs to
county.
be, that certainly needs to be changed, because the developer has no intent to do that, neither does the county.
That can't be changed. That was all done through the
That
courts.
is, yeah, that's,
Yeah,
that is what it says.
that's the
just-
agreement we're bound by.
And there are multiple parties too. So there's Palm Coast, there's the county, there's the city, and there was now the successor to the private parties who were under the agreement. They're defined as the POA or the PUD. They're successors. So it's it'd be an effort to amend it. Doesn't mean it can't be done. Doesn't mean it shouldn't be done.
I'm very firmly believe it will be done. And I just want to point out to you, the reclaimed water is not part of any of this
Right,
agreement.
reclaim's not part of that, that's important.
And you can make whatever conditions you want to on this reclaimed water. You can decide you don't want to sell to anybody outside the city of Flagler Beach. Unless they're in the city of Flagler Beach, you can make that decision.
Rick?
Fred, if we were to turn our affluent going into the intercoastal into reclaimed water, how much of that reclaimed water could they possibly use?
I would estimate maybe half.
You think it'd be that much?
I'm estimating.
With the
Okay.
golf course or without one?
Well, I
I'm
don't
just
think they're
counting,
having
I'm
a
just
golf
thinking
course.
that this 335 units,
Just,
less than half.
So
Okay.
then we gotta find a place to, if we switch over to reclaimed water to satisfy them, and/or other customers,
Well-
we gotta find a lot of customers.
Well, what normally happens, and it happened in Port Orange, is you basically, you have basically a wet weather discharge into the river, and then you develop your customer base to use as much of it as possible. And the real challenge of reclaimed water is the storage, okay, storage.
Right.
Storage volume. So there's a lot of details to be yet to be worked out. I have spoken to our designers for our wastewater treatment plant. You can actually design modules where portions of the water gets treated to reclaim water. And I talked about the salt water content, take the salt out.
All right.
And you could treat part of it for reclaimed water, and you could
It's
let
not
the
an
rest
all
of
or
it
nothing
go,
thing.
still dispose in the river. We're gonna need to keep that wet weather discharge into the river for some time until because you're limited by your storage capacity.
But
Okay.
I think this is confusing
This
two
may-
separate, because the new development follows its own set of rules, and then us getting out of the intercoastal and not putting effluent in it is completely different. That's mandated by FDEP, and we have to do that by a certain year, and we talked about that in a previous meeting that we're planning on, but that and the development they're not connected. They're not going to be responsible for getting us out of intercoastal. They have nothing to do with that.
But the mayor was right. You have to have a supply and you have to have a demand. There's no point in producing something to a high quality and don't have a customer. So,
And that's my point as to at what point do we, the city, speak to the developer or whomever before the county approves this? Because that is a huge,
you don't
huge
have to do it now, but we will need to do it
well, if the
in
county
future.
approves this project next week,
Well, let me explain what let me clarify. They've stated that they can take care of all their irrigation needs with their stormwater ponds on site. I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that's true.
But we don't have reclaimed water.
And they want to eventually get reclaimed water from us, okay? They voiced that opinion. That's a good opinion.
If we geared up to start producing reclaimed water, how long would it take to reach that point?
Well, we've got a design we could complete this year, and we could build our plant next year. So December of 2021, you could have the plant built, so you could provide reclaimed water.
But before we go to do that, we would want to know where that reclaimed water was going.
Exactly. I'm not going to be asking you to spend money on a supply that we don't have a demand customer for.
Gene?
At one of the county meetings in regard to the Gardens project itself, the developer did indicate, and it spoke to I think it was the technical review committee at that time, because that question came up. And they did indicate that they plan on getting the water from Flagler Beach.
Right.
For reclaim,
They did.
in order to meet the needs, because that was a big concern that the members of the board had at that time. And that's when the comment was made that Flagler Beach has a lot of free water. And I said, no. But at any rate, there was a unofficial commitment to that particular board that they were planning on getting some of the water, reclaimed water from Flagler Beach. So I think that it's very beneficial that we've had these conversations, and they're obviously going to be continuing for our planning purposes in many areas. So I think that was the purpose of actually putting this on the agenda, so that we could start the conversation and keep it going, and have full transparency to everyone. So I think this is something that it has been very confusing, and I've been keeping up with it a lot, and it's been confusing to me as well. But anyway, I think that we've answered a lot of questions. There are probably a few more, but I'll.
All right, I didn't close public
did I
comment
leave,
yet.
Don, I'm sorry that I cut you off. Did you have more?
Yes, Madam Chair. and-
No, not John, Don Deal.
Oh, Don, not John. Don goes before John.
Sorry, what, John?
I can't hear him.
Said he's okay.
Don said he's okay.
Don can go before John.
Let's go.
No, I'm okay. I think we made the point. It's conversation. It's something that we need to look at, and I think we're all in agreement of that. I was just under the impression whenever we had the GIN project, they were going to take our water that we were dumping in the intercoastal. I was just curious where we're at in this process. That's why I wanted to bring it up. And I wanted to bring up the worst-case scenario. What happens if they don't have a need for it? What are we going to do? Is it going to be the burden on the current taxpayers? I just don't know.
They have made the commitment, not the signed commitment, but they are going to put purple plumbing in the ground when they put in all the other pipes. So they're going to have the infrastructure to receive it, should we be able to supply it.
Correct.
So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
All right, John.
Madam Chair, briefly, John Tanner again. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and that is becoming further down the road we get. This original, we know the Water Wars agreement, and I understand a lot better than I did a few months ago. Problem has been that there's nothing to do with the effluent that is now a real concern because of the change in the federal regs and what they're requiring of the cities. But we don't know what this developer is going to do. I'm not sure he knows what he's going to do. We're doing our best, and we're going to mount a major effort to get at least the west side of this proposed development bought by the state. That piece of land, including the east, was bought at one time by the St. Johns River Water Management District. It made the news in 1998. They had finally filled in the Flagler County Greenway, one of the premier projects in the state of Florida at the time with regard to conservation and water resources. That has gone by the wayside for a lot of reasons. The major was Bobby Ginn, a pretty shrewd developer, that's the kindest term I can use for him, submarined the Water Management District. And rather than let the people have that piece of precious land for a park and the water recharge and all the reasons the St. Johns River wanted to buy it, he outbid them and literally stole it from beneath them. St. Johns River Water Management District actually had their signs on the property. And they did a big press release, and everyone applauded, and Bobby Ginn pulled the rug. And so we then wound up with Ginn dealing with the city and with the county and with the Water Management District. He promised to build the treatment plant. He was going to pay for it. He was going to provide the acreage. It wasn't going to fall on the people of Flagler Beach or the people of Flagler County. And he needed it for his golf course. We have a new developer who has not promised to build anything.
Right.
Who is not putting a plant up, who said, I put purple pipe in the ground. Hallelujah. Purple pipe in the ground? That's really going to carry us a long way. We have a developer who won't even say what he's going to do with the property. We have 4 future development. I haven't seen one single golf course sketch coming from that developer. Bobby Ginn had golf course plans. My best estimate, for whatever it's worth, is there's no intention to build a golf course there. None. Every one of those future development blocks, they're going to be looking to another commission and another commission trying to turn what was supposed to be a few hundred homes into the 4,000 home plus 12-story condo monster that we faced a year ago. So beware.
Okay, but again, we will only have a reuse plant.
Yes.
If there's a place to put the reuse.
Yes, ma'am.
If he's not building a golf course and he doesn't want the reuse water, then we're not going to spend the money or the engineering or any of that.
Yeah, and we had a developer that was willing to spend the money to do the right thing. Thank you.
A lot of your arguments are
Well,
very valid, John, but you have to have them with the county and not with us.
Oh, I will do that.
I know you will. I have no doubt.
Well, and to piggyback on what he was saying, developers openly stated in previous meetings, they're not building a golf course.
Right.
They have no intention to. It's not even on their plans.
Well, that's what John was saying, yeah.
Paul Harrington, Flagler Beach, and words out of Ken Belchie and Mike Chimento's mouth where we don't want to build a golf course. And that was in a private conversation 3 times. So they don't want to build that golf course, and they're probably going to work around not having to build it. The 335 homes, based on the amount of water that's coming out of the discharge right now, is going to be 2,000 gallons of water a day per home.
2,000 a month.
Not 2,000, 200 per day.
Okay? Still a lot of water.
the comment was made that we need to find other sources, and we do, because even that, the garden is probably going to be beyond the timeframes that we got to work with. We found out yesterday that the purple line running out A1A is not, it's dry. It's not irrigated.
Another issue, could we stick with this one?
Well, these are avenues that you got to look at, and what else you're going to do besides what the gardens can do.
Okay, if we build a plant and they need the water, then I'm sure our engineer will make sure that the pipes are working correctly. Right? Engineer, yes? Yes, ma'am. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Sandra Netubik, and I live on Pine Tree Street. I would like to address him. One, I would like for you not to compare Flagler Beach to Port Orange. I lived in New Smyrna Beach a long time, and I know what Port Orange is. I worked up in that area for many years. Flagler Beach is a small town. We only have 49% of our residents that live here permanently year-round. The rest of them come during the winter time or whenever. But I would like for this to think about the residents of Flagler Beach, the people who live here, the people that are paying the taxes, the people who are going to be paying the extra water bill. I live right off in Palm Drive, and that pond that you're talking about, when it's full, it runs over to the back part. I live between the intercoastal and the wetlands, and with the rains that we've been having now, my street is flooded at the end. I can't even get I have a little small, my mother left me a little small MG midget. I can't even drive it through the water. That's how high it is. And it stays there for days. My canal is high, very high, running because the wetlands are already, because all the others running over. The people that live on Palm Drive in the back part where that wetlands is, with the rains now and the runoffs, the water is already coming up to the back, almost into their homes. So my concern is with the development that let's think about the people of Flagler Beach, the citizens, the people who work here, who live here, who care about us, who pay the taxes and pay the bills. I mean, I don't think we should be comparing ourselves to, if Palm Coast wants to take the water, let them take it. I'd say that's fine. Who cares? It's going to save Flagler Beach a lot of money and a lot of issues and a lot of problems. But please don't compare us to a place that is bigger and more and has a lot more money. And they do. They have a huge, huge, brand new water plant that was built. And another thing, where's the money going to come from? Where's all this money going to come from to pay to do what's going to have to be done to start with? And my understanding of all the reading and understanding about the city water and the sewage, that its capacity is already at 70%. And that's why we needed the wells. What about our drinking water? The wells that we were digging for our drinking water. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. I think much of what you asked about was addressed earlier.
It was in the questions.
Yeah, it was in these questions that we went over before. Is there anyone else?
Are we just speaking on this issue specifically?
Right now, we're only speaking on this issue, yes. Anybody else? Okay, I guess I'm going to close public comment, and you weren't looking for any action, you just wanted, correct?
I need some money.
Are we going to take
No, I'm
up a
just kidding.
collection? No.
No, Madam Chair, I'd like to thank you and the board members as well as staff. And I'd like to thank the public for coming out to engage in again, I'm being redundant about this, but, you know, from this point on, we'll make sure that we're all transparent. Fred has assured me that, you know, he will make sure that we're, as a commission, are on board with what's going on, and he's already indicated there's some documents that he has to sign. He's going to make sure that we review those before they go forward, as well as the mayor. So, again, thanks a lot. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of questions that we still have, and we'll stay on it, and encourage the public, if you have any questions, rather than, you know, just guess what's going on, don't hesitate to give us a call. I get the calls, and I'm sure some of the other commissioners do. If I don't have the answer, I'll make sure I get it for you. So thank you very much.
Commissioner, I would even, you know, recommend doing like a quarterly update. You know, maybe every 3 months, every 90 days. So if there's anything new, any new developments, whether the county approves, you know, things, at least to give the public the chance to know exactly what's going on, and just schedule them, like I said, maybe every 3 months, this way that, you know, we keep everybody fresh and up to
Matt,
date
could
with
we
what's
get a copy of those questions and answers as well?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'll get you the draft of the utility agreement, which we have
Yep.
not really tore into yet, and it'll be coming back before you to get approval, before it gets adopted. And then also, in addition, the water and sewer permits, I'm not going to sign any water and sewer permits without getting your blessing on that, as well as the utility agreement. And we got a lot of work to do on the reclaimed water before we decide what we want to do there.
Okay. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you. Thank you
And
for the
thank you,
recommendation, man.
Okay, anything else? Okay. All right, number 17, extending the declaration of emergency. We have a resolution. Patrick, would you like to read it to us?
Resolution 2020-26, a resolution by the City Commission of the City of Flagler Beach, Florida, extending the declaration of a state of emergency and extending the time frame enacted by the powers of Chapter 14, Article 3, Emergency Management, providing for conflict and an effective date.
Okay, we all know the governor has extended it. Ours was going to expire,
Ours did expire.
or it did expire. Sorry.
Ours did, we were still covered from, there was just a couple of things in our code that weren't covered, like staff couldn't work. Salaried staff couldn't get paid for any overtime they'd work, like they could during this. There was just a 4-day period of that. And I did write this in line to expire with the, he can't go more than 60 days without addressing it again before his expire. So I wrote this to fall in line with that to expire on November 3rd. And to prevent that gap, I'll probably bring it back to your second meeting in October to see if you want to renew. And we'll just set, if you do, we'll set it an effective date of November 4th.
Okay, and some of that will be determined by what the governor does in the
Correct.
meantime. Okay, any questions?
And the only other thing I wanted to ask you is your decision to waive any utility late fees and penalties. Previous was to go along with the governor's executive order. So since he's continued his, we assume that you want to continue to waive those.
Yeah. Yeah,
I would like to hear from the utility department, because I'm not saying people aren't on hard times right now, but I think there's a lot of people, from what I understand, that are taking advantage of the no late fees and the no shut-offs and getting deeper and deeper in debt. And that's money we will lose out on.
Well, I can put an item on your next agenda and have the utility billing manager bring forth data for you.
that'd be good.
Because I don't have that.
Easier to make a good decision.
So is that part of this?
It
This
is not part
resolution?
of it. That was just a verbal motion, a verbal consensus from you. It was not, it's not addressed in here.
Okay.
It's a separate verbal consensus, direction to staff, be amended by you at any time and doesn't have any effect on us.
Okay, great.
Okay, anything else? Anybody in the public want to address this? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, look for a motion. Oops.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 2020-26.
Second.
Was that Ken or Eric?
Ken.
And Commissioner Phillips? Commissioner Bryan?
Yes.
Commissioner Bellhumor?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooley?
Yes, the motion.
Chair Mealy?
Yes. Number 18, consider extending Resolution 2020-22 requiring the wearing of face masks.
And I spoke to Drew, Patrick, if you want to jump in, but I
Sure.
spoke to Drew on this, and he said, the way the last resolution was wrote, which you have in front of me, it had a sunset clause in it, and that you didn't need to adopt another resolution to extend it. You could either just let it sunset, or you could do a voice direction to staff, or voice motion to extend it.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's why you don't need to have a rereading of a title or anything like that.
Okay. All right, you want to read it to us?
Sure. Resolution, no, it doesn't require a reading.
Or maybe
It's
just,
already adopted, just to extend it.
oh, okay.
Just to be more specific, on the last page of Resolution 2020-22, Section 8 is where it says it may be extended by a majority vote without the need for a new resolution like you had for the state of
I see,
emergency.
I see, I'm getting. So all we're discussing is extending what we already have.
Correct.
Anybody have any comments or questions? Anybody in the public? Seeing none, I'll close public comment, and we,
Make a motion that
Motion.
we extend Resolution 2020-22 for another 60 days. So, do I need to put an effective date as of today, or what? Or is that
We have 60
sufficient?
days from today, that's sufficient.
Okay.
so we can just do voice, or should we do a roll call?
It's up to you.
I think just a voice. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Okay,
Did we have a second?
yeah, we did.
Okay, sorry.
We did.
I didn't have my mic on, I'm sorry about that.
Okay, commission comments, start with the mayor.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everybody that the 9/11 ceremony that the Knights of Columbus do on the pier is tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., not on the 13th. There's a bit of confusion.
There was, and I sent an email out today.
Yeah,
Apologize
so
for that.
that's tomorrow morning at 8,
It's
if you
tomorrow.
can
We've
make
had it at 8 o'clock because I know Chair Mealy likes to be at meetings.
I'm so excited about getting out of here late and getting up.
It's almost as bad as I am.
And also, I just wanted to let everybody know that the International Beach Cleanup is the 19th, the following Saturday. We have quite a few groups, Salty Church, Junior ROTC, the Flockers is doing Beverly Beach, but that will be next Saturday at 8 a.m. So
Do you have anything on that, Mayor, that you can send me that I can put on social media?
I do, absolutely.
And I'll post it tomorrow. this
Okay,
week. I'll probably post it Saturday and then refresh it midweek.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Ken?
Not a lot. I attended the Board of County Commissioners meeting in regard to a number of issues yesterday, and of course, Chairman was there as well as a few other folks, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because we've covered a lot of that already. The only other thing I have, and I think a number of us received the email already from one of our residents regarding a noise nuisance that has been plaguing he and his family for quite a while.
Yeah, I forwarded it to,
I've got it.
To Matt.
We'll address
Okay.
it.
Okay, and
Tonight, but-
we just want to bring it up because I know there's limited, it's pretty limited as what we can do, but I think we can address the noise part of it. I think it's unfortunate that you have residents that are neighbors that are not considerate enough to be quiet in the middle of the night and keeping people up for various things that they're doing. So anyway, we'll leave it up to the police department to address that and hope the resident will get some relief.
And we'll contact code enforcement as well. There may be some code
got it
issues
right
up there.
before I came.
Oh, okay. I haven't checked it.
So can I just kind of interject really quick? Will you also talk to Rick McFadden,
Yes.
Chief? Okay, thank you.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, Rick?
I have a couple of questions, more than comments this round. City Manager. Has there been any more talk about extension of pier hours?
Well, yes and no. I'm extending it to 9 o'clock. I'm still waiting on word back about, right now they require 2 attendants to be there. If we can just go down to 1, I'd be more than happy to extend the hours. But right now we have 2 because there's nobody allowed in the shop, so. I'll talk to Rick about that tomorrow, about extending it, so, nothing definite.
Tomorrow, or he come back Monday?
He comes back Monday, but I've talked to him.
Oh, okay,
It's-
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. You're aware of the washout at just south of North 18th?
I am. I was made
Okay.
aware of it last night, and
Maybe they can do something a little different this next time.
here's the thing with that, and it was brought to my attention last night, I had my officers go out and look at it. It's not affecting A1A. The
Right.
seawall hasn't been exposed, and with the amount of hard rain that we've had, at least the water's going the right way. It's going down, towards the beach, so I don't know how we get additional sand in here to shore that up. I'll be more than happy to call Ron and find out.
Well, that's part of what FDOT has contractors to do now. What are the, what's the name of it?
They've changed a couple different times.
All right, well, whoever their contractor is now, that's been putting the red dirt around in different places, they're the ones that have fixed it a couple times already in the past, so Berger or something. But if we could at least let them know that there's
I'll take
something
care of it.
going on
I'll
there.
call Ron tomorrow.
Because it's really not supposed to go in that direction in the end. I've been going back and forth with Matt on trying to get the last of these LED streetlights shut off that are along A1A because they are disorienting the new hatchlings.
I thought Lori said they were all taken care of.
No, there's still 5 of them.
There's still 5, and it's like every day there's 2 here.
Yeah, they got two yesterday. I don't know if they got any today.
Good.
No, well, they're good as far as where she was having issues, especially on the north end, up around North 22nd, North 23rd, up in there. Those lights have been changed. And one of the things that I'm talking to Chris Vinoy from FP&L is he wants his subcontractor to come out and partner with Lori to find out exactly what type of shields that they're looking at. Because right now there's a little gap, about a 1/4 inch gap, and those new LED lights are very bright. And we want to make sure that the turtles are protected and safe. And, as far as I'm concerned, Lori's the best person to do that, as passionate as she is. So working with, like I said, Chris Vinoy and some other folks from FP&L, it's been.
I just wanted to share the news that the
been a
city
labor.
manager is on top of that and trying to get the remainder of the ones that don't have shields at the moment turned off until they do get a solution and the proper shields created that they can put in place. LDR progress. What's the latest on that? Do we have any? Do we even have a schedule for where that's going?
The
in the fall?
rewrite.
Oh,
Guess not.
go ahead, because I mean, I know a little bit about it, what Larry was doing, but.
So a draft has been given to Larry Torino, and engineering right now is reviewing that as well. Making sure all their parts are in it, and Larry's reviewing it. And they asked me the other day when I was gonna put my input on, and I said, I'm not your writer of code here, but what I am is your reviewer to make sure you've carried everything over and it's in the right spot. So I've asked them to wait till they're done, all the departments are done, and then I'd be happy to look at it for a final look on just how it's placed, but not on content.
So anything that's been scheduled as far as progressing forward, this is off the board for now.
It's not ready
It'll all have
to
to
go to
be
the planning
rescheduled.
board or the commission, no.
Okay.
Right, and I had met with Larry Torino and Fred and Lee, and that they were waiting on that document to come, and then they were gonna vet it out and put in their recommendations and send it back. one of the things I told them was, about what Penny was alluding to too, was they also need to make sure that they get their stuff in there before it goes to anybody, par board, contractors. They need to get the buy-in from all those people before we start making, final decisions. And, to Commissioner Bryant's point earlier, transparency is paramount. So once they get that stuff done, Kimley Horn, we're the customer. We should be, demanding what we want in there. So right now, it's still in staff's hands going over that document.
Right, and it's still a moving document. There's nothing solid yet. I mean,
And one other thing, if you could find out for me and we can share the news about the official completion of our two newest walkovers on the south end at 14th and 18th.
I will find out.
I believe they're still waiting on some hand railing for that, for it to be officially signed off by the building department.
Yes, Rick, that's a good question, because somebody told me they needed a garbage can on 14th. and-
Yeah, they're not open.
But, they're open.
Well, I
They're
know.
using them.
They're not supposed to, the people open them, but.
While you're checking
Officially.
into that, I was told after they were done with 14th and 18th, they were going to go to 21st and put the benches in that were supposed to be.
Is Charles Bergen doing those, or is it?
no, this is Intron.
Intron, okay.
Okay.
He did last week.
Okay, that's it. I would have had something on there about the salvage issue, but I'm sure Matt's going to share that with their code enforcement and see what can be done.
While y'all were discussing it, I sent it to my night shift sergeant tonight, so that there's a noise issue tonight, address it, so.
Right. Okay, Eric? Debbie?
I just have two small things. If you're not aware.
Is your microphone on there?
If you're not aware, Chief Pace mentioned to me about 2 weeks ago, flowers were put around the fountain, and they look very nice. So I want to mention that, if you haven't seen them. And then secondly, the issues we had in A1A going south, where the road kind of caved in one spot. Right now, there's asphalt, and so they're kind of bumps, and we've got the signs. Well, my son drove over the second one, and his muffler fell off.
Why?
Now, he would have normally gone over a piece of rice, and the muffler fell off because it was just hanging there, but he mentioned it to me that, is that ever going to get fixed? So my question to you is, will that ever be back to the way the road should be?
That's a great question. That's a owner of the roadway, which is DOT.
Okay.
And when I talk to Ron tomorrow about
Could you just
the other
mention-
issue about the sand, I'll find out.
Okay, that'd be great.
I'm sorry to interrupt. While you're on the phone with Ron.
Hopefully Ron's watching and I don't have
Ask
to
him
call him.
about those, I don't want more signage per se, but there really is not a lot of signage for that 25. I mean,
I asked him to put in additional signage. There was, the last time I talked to Ron about it, if you remember going south, there was a sign that said reduce speed ahead.
it's gone.
But right.
Said what?
It was crazy because I drove it and the speed never got reduced. But there was not a sign between that one and 17th Street. So what I asked him to do was take the reduced speed sign ahead and add an additional sign around 12th Street. So when I talk to him tomorrow,
Is it possible, rather than more signs, to do the 25 on the road, to paint it?
Oh, like Beverly Beach has.
I can always ask.
I
Yeah.
mean, rather than put up more signs.
Yeah, I
So
like
these
the
people
Beverly
know-
Beach one thing.
Yeah, so. Or can
All
you
I can
it
do-
in the
all I
line
can
on
do
the
is
road?
ask,
Just
so.
asking, for a friend.
I love that.
Well, they can take it down one of the 57 no U-turn signs.
Yeah.
Save a couple dollars there, so.
I'm sorry, Deborah. Oh, no.
But I will follow up with Ron and then, yeah, when I do talk to Ron and get answers from him, I'll make sure that I email the elected officials.
Okay, and, the auditor selection committee met. We had 5 applicants. We decided we would interview 3 of them, and that's coming up soon. I don't remember what the date is, the 18th? The 18th. It was interesting, we all picked the same one that we liked the best, and I foolishly thought we had hired an auditor, but we decided to interview 3 of them. So we'll let you know how that goes.
And we were able to confirm the cost of that this upcoming year to the point we were able to take some of it out of the budget.
Right. There was a wide disparity in the cost. It was amazing. Like
think Kathleen took $10,000
$20,000
out.
I
different.
think that was 10,000 we took out, or was it?
Yeah, it was about
Yeah, we took out,
$10,400, something to that effect.
Yeah. So that was an interesting experience, and that's about all that I think we need to talk about. Patrick, do you have anything?
No, other than Drew sends his apologies for not being here, and I think it's probably been about a year, maybe more, since I've been here, and there's many of you I haven't met, but I'm Patrick Brackens, and it's very nice to be here, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for coming. And we could understand when you read the resolution. Drew talks so fast. Okay. Matt?
It's kind of like sitting next to Drew 2.0. No, I just want to thank the board for the opportunity to fill the seat for 3 weeks. And just because I won't be filling the seat anymore, my commitment to the city has never been stronger. I'll continue to help Rick. And this whole thing is a team effort with all the department heads. And I think moving forward, getting a new city manager is going to be a really, really great thing. I don't consider it an obstacle. I think it's something that, we miss Larry, and we'll move forward together. And again, Flagler Strong is not just a catchphrase. It's what you feel in your heart when you work in a city that's as amazing as ours. So thank you.
And thank you so
Thank
much
you, Matt.
that you've really gone out of your way to learn stuff, like you said, that wasn't really in your wheelhouse. And it's appreciated that you did that.
I'd like to thank Commissioner Bryan for throwing it in, making a new wheelhouse for me.
I wanted you to add something to your resume.
That's
Okay, Penny?
Just that you have your first budget hearing on the 16th, and I hope to get your agenda out to you tomorrow. You may not receive your backup for it, which is your resolution, until early next week. Kathleen has went to Colorado for her sons, and I forgot to go over this with her. So I've got the resolutions drafted, and I know the backup that goes with it. It's in your budget book or the new pages she gave.
She gave us the pages.
Right, so, but I just don't know the values for the properties to add to one of the resolutions and the percentage difference. So there's I just have 2 questions, and if I can get hold of her, if she's not on top of the mountain somewhere, I'll get
It's snow
that
out
to
there,
you.
she might be skiing.
Yeah, I told her to bring a fur coat along with her bathing suit.
She was telling me that, she said how much she crammed into her suitcase, and she ended up wearing her big puffy jacket and had on her Ugg boots to get on the plane here. So it looked kind of foolish in Florida, you know?
Yeah.
Can I ask Penny a question?
Sure.
Do you have any chairs coming by any chance?
I promise I will have them ordered before September 30th, but
Okay.
I just got to get online with Staples.
I know,
Sometimes they
it
have
just-
them in stock where I can just pick them up,
Right.
get my husband
And
and
it
go buy
seemed
the
to have
truck.
been a couple of trash cans disappear from up
You
here.
know, I've got to ask about those. Linda mentioned that too, because you used to have one under every,
Yeah. Right.
and I don't know if she's just put them in other departments or if they, I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay.
Chair, one last thing, and I forgot to put it on last week's, and I'll add it on this week's on weekly report. But the first officer I hired when I started as a chief was Gaetano Cazone, and you guys probably all know Officer Cazone.
Sure.
He graduated with his bachelor's degree earlier this month. That's huge. He didn't have that or have any aspirations that he could get that degree, and that goes to the recruitment and retention of really qualified folks. And I've told him, as a mentor, don't stop now. Don't stop now. Take it from somebody that knows. I was the last graduating class of UCF in 1999, and I was just going to take a semester off. 20 years later, I still haven't gone back to UCF to get my master's degree. But for that young man with a wife and 2 kids to work nights, weekends, and holidays to get his bachelor's degree is something we didn't have before.
That's wonderful.
And that's as a result of the commission allowing us to increase our budget for education. We're retaining good, quality, educated police officers. And my goal is to get, at least half the department in the next 2 years to where we're at least with bachelor's degrees. Sergeant Yevington's got a master's degree. He didn't have any of that when I taught him at the academy. So kudos to the board for increasing our training budget. It's paying off.
That's right, well, congratulate him for us.
Congratulations, Dan.
Madam Chair, I just had one more thing. I just want to thank you for the report. I had no idea there was so much police activity going on in the city.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, my God.
Depressing, isn't it?
Well, I mean, compared to other cities, it's not a lot, but it's still more than I really knew. I mean, unbelievable. But anyway,
There's a lot of,
little.
I know, it's pretty amazing.
there's
but
a
I
lot of really
appreciate
good
it.
work that goes on.
Yeah, but I mean, it's quietly done and done in a professional manner, so thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
That's a good one. Okay. Good meeting, everybody. A lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I was really worried.
Oh, yeah, for the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That meeting.
Did you come to discuss something